CS Major has ended. Was it the best or a dark day in Counter-Strike history? Well, you guys can decide that based on our last episode of the Four Horsemen if you missed it. But we're back again with more Counter-Strike. And this time we're going to be talking about the VRS system, which is the Valve regional standings, the very complicated, essentially pan-tournament scoreboard that ranks teams for entrance into the majors, since they ditched the old qualification system. And our annual co-host, Messioso of 100 Thieves, is back with us, very technical expert on these things. And the reason why we're talking about the VRS system is, again, it started basically to be widely adopted at the start of 2025. Now we have, a year and a half of experience with the system being implemented in the majors. And we've started to see some very interesting side effects of that, including recently some controversy about a tournament that that had just finished in China called the XEC Pro League, or XPL, in Guangzhou, which, very interestingly, FaZe, who did not attend the major, decided to attend, probably to boost their VRS rankings. And why this is weird is that for many years now in Counter-Strike, there has been allegedly a player break, mostly after the first major. It's typically during the month of July, plus or minus a few weeks, depending on when the major ends. And this is supposed to be negotiated by the old CS Pro Players Association, the CSPPA. The
rest in peace.
Well, they were a pain in my ass. But they, one of the good things that they did was negotiate a hold on the calendar so players could take a break. Otherwise, people would be going 12 months out of the year. However, now that they are gone, teams are playing during the player breaks to get VRS points for the major, which FaZe missed. So let's start with this before we get into the controversy, which is, do you guys think that the VRS system on the whole has been successful as far as qualifications for the majors, giving out points this year? Obviously, it needs tweaks, but is this a preferential system to what happened previously?
I think Graham should go first. He is our expert.
He runs a team, so
is this coming from like my personal perspective or like from a team perspective?
Do because both if they differ.
Yeah, I think they differ slightly. I think overall it's stimulated a lot of growth, I think, in terms of like the amount of matches, like the amount of relevant matches within the ecosystem. If I could go back to a more sort of what I would call a sustainable partnership model, would I take it? Probably. As a team owner, yes. If I was one of the partners, obviously, as not a partner, that would suck. So, I can see both sides of that coin, definitely. I obviously was privileged at the time to be part of the partnerships league. So that was, for me, it's been a bit of a change. But yeah, I think if we're taking the shift away from the partnerships, I think that we're not in a bad place right now. I think that like we have a lot of teams who are they're playing matches that mean something for the most part. I think there's a lot of teams who are going to get very, let down in the next 6 months. I think that there's going to be a bit of a downturn as people begin to realize that they're chasing something that doesn't exist. In terms of like the major qualifications, how much money can you invest into trying to get to, the top 18 in Europe or whatever it is, this time around. Especially, I don't have the data firsthand because obviously we didn't qualify this time around, but the data I have third hand or third party is atrocious.
It was implied, as in you're meaning that it's implied the sticker money was a lot lower, right?
Horrifically bad. Horrifically bad.
So that notion of if you just qualify, you get millions, that's not even real anymore, right?
That was only real once, and that was only real at Paris. Ever since then, it's been, mid to high, six figures. For the teams at least. The Legends players capsule always popped off, but other than that, it was pretty mediocre across the board for the other players. Now, as far as I can tell, it is just terrible. I'm sure the Legends capsule, the winners capsule will do well, and the winners obviously will get lots of money. But I think apart from that, I think every team is probably down. I think the players are down. Overall on average, because what used to be like a very high concentration in the Legends capsule is now being spread across all the players, and they're all getting they're getting less percentages of that because they're also now sharing their percentage with the teams. The teams are now sharing some of their old percentages with the players. Sales are mediocre because the system is bad, I think. So I think ultimately, like, if Valve keep this system the way they have got it now, which I could foresee because they are trying to trend away from the gambling, then a lot of teams, it's just not going to be worth it for them to invest into playing all these open LAN events, all these tournaments. So I think we will begin to see a trending towards sort of a consolidation in that sense. You know, the better tier 2 organizers will survive, and the, you know, I would say the more established tier 2 teams will survive. And I think a lot of these kind of like upstart teams and tournaments that have sort of come in to try and take advantage of this new system will begin to fade away quite quickly, which, I mean, that's kind of how things go, right? It booms, it goes up and down. So I think that's to be expected. But I think,
and on the plus side, with the winners making all the money, I mean, a small org like Falcons actually gets a payday, which, you know.
I knew it was there. I didn't want to say anything.
I think we can all agree that's a great thing.
By the way, I'll give you a quick
some,
counterpoint, though.
Grassroots anonymous investors.
I'll give you a counterpoint, though, because actually a lot of the things that so far have been said in this call, even in a short amount of time, had a little bit of snark in there, but that only works from your perspective. Like, I'll give you an example. Okay. You know, when you say that about, the team orgs are getting way less now. Have they actually, by the way, the worst thing is the penny hasn't dropped on this. Has the penny dropped yet that it was never you making that money? That was Navi's sticker in that capsule that was making all that money, brother. It wasn't a little team that got in there and got through a shitty RMR that came second or whatever. You just got to be subsidized by Navi fans. What happens now is when your org does, I'm not talking to you specifically, I'm talking to other people who are complaining. When your org doesn't make any money, guess what? Maybe you make your own fan base, man. Maybe make a reason why people would only buy your sticker. I also, by the way, a lot of people have very uninspired logos, don't have big fans. So again, that's one of those ones where I understand for the industry as a whole, it's true. It's going to make it less attractive to come in. It's going to be bad to be a new org, for example. There's a lot of things that'll be negative. I agree in that sense. But I also think in most of these areas, we have to also acknowledge that a lot of people didn't actually basically give proper credence to where they were sometimes being carried or subsidized. So similarly, when Monty said the thing there of sort of like, and then we had this agreement. No. Valve never came in and said no one's allowed to do tournaments. That was not the case. What happened was, as you say, is player groups and teams negotiated that the tier 1 orgs, by the way, none of these tournaments are run by tier 1 orgs. So at the end of the day, there was never a rule like in July, no one may run a LAN. Some of these LANs are Billy Nobody LANs, bro. It's the teams choosing to attend those. Certainly 100%. That's a byproduct of VRS. We can get into that. But I'll give you an example. FaZe is a great one, right? Because in your brain, we all still think conditioned by the old model. FaZe, that's a tier 1 org. You're supposed to be in the tier 1s. Right now, by the way, Monty, if they didn't attend LANs like this, they'll never get into a tier 1 LAN.
Yeah.
They won't be at one. So what are they going to do? Sit there and go, well, let me honor this player break. If they do that, mate, they are dead meat, especially with the fucking roster.
It's also true that FaZe didn't attend the major, so they had a break. You know what I mean?
Yes. Of course.
So, you know, it's not
similarly,
like...
Monty, along the same line, I'll tell you what, you know who never used to need a player break? It was before Graham's time. Old school teams like Complexity. I remember doing an interview with like Ye from Complexity before Valorant and saying to him, bro, there's like a whole year where you go to like 2 LANs. And it's because back then, his team used to play every online. They never got an invite, remember, without VRS. Yeah. You're in the bad old days where every team with Neo and Taz and Fallen, they just get invited automatically no matter how shit they are. Meanwhile, you could be hustling online, but if you keep coming second and third in that online qualifier, you don't get to go to the LAN. Sign up for tomorrow's qualifier, though, where you play another 10 games in a day. You came third again. No LAN for you. So simultaneously, they were not going to LANs, but they were being ground to oblivion. They were playing like 800 maps or something. And so I always think whenever we do this, let's never idealize the old system like it was mega. It had massive flaws in it. It's just often there were things that if you're a bigger person, you didn't care about because who cares about some small org. And then also, I do think that when we've opened it up with VRS, let's be real. Unlike the old system of partnership, there's nothing like malevolent about this. Like no one's actually engineered this way. These just happen to be like when you sort of put the new system out there. These are just some of the bugs or some of the areas that aren't ideal. Yeah. So I think it's quite interesting conversation to be had.
Well, yeah, and I think it is about optimizing it because, I mean, I hated the RMR system, for example. I thought
just to throw this in, because this is one shot at the players I will throw. So I threw one at everyone else as well, the orgs. Here's the shot at the players. It's a real bitch now, isn't it? Where now the org is sometimes incentivized to make you go to tournaments because they get all that club share and all that money. Tell you what, contact your CSPPA operative, dickhead. Shout out. Flashpoint sends its regards. Enjoy the Louvre agreement.
Yeah.
But also, I do want to point out something about the sticker money, and I think this is a good point that's pan esports, is that one of the side effects of the professionalization and mass commercialization of the esports scene, both in Counter-Strike and other games, has been that the players no longer really feel like they have to do work to promote themselves. They just receive venture capital or Saudi money, and that's their job. Whereas before times, a large amount of a player's income would depend directly on, were they streaming? Were they doing stuff to make themselves a personality, right? We saw this extensively across esports. And that motivation has essentially dried up now, where the players do not want to spend any more time promoting themselves. And especially with personal stickers at the major, I'm sure some players clean up. You know what I mean? I'm sure some players do extremely well. But then the other players are going to bitch because with sticker money down, guess what? Your salary is going to go down because your org can't afford to pay you. And like you said, Duncan, you were riding on the org, right? Or your teammates, potentially, in order
or bigger orgs that you were bundled in with.
Yeah. And so, I do find that in general, across every esport, many of the players have more or less abdicated any kind of responsibility to make themselves popular or to put in the extra work to do that, and then just complain when they don't get money, which is, it's not going to work forever, guys.
It's actually kind of interesting because players are definitely not eating as good in the last 18 months as they were
still eating good, though. Still eating good.
But here's the thing, Monty. It's actually the area. That's why I threw in the shot about the CSP APA thing, because the things they were quibbling about when we were doing the Flashpoint ESEA Louvre agreement battle are insane. When you now know, Richard knows this because of BGL, they've essentially, because they're so stupid and they sleep at the wheel, they've let at this point, it's almost the majority of the prize money just go to the team org. Something that, remember, back in the day, 100% of prize money went to the team, the players themselves. These idiots just literally let the fucking horse bolt. It's gone, mate. It's gone.
So, now. I've talked about this a lot, so I won't, belabor the point.
Sure.
But the reality is this. It was contingent on organizations to have negotiations with their players and say to them what amount of prize money they wanted to share with them when the team won. And very often, if you wanted to be competitive in the market, you had to set that to 0%, as in
because
the player gets all the prize money.
We'll take 0, of course.
Now, I've talked a lot in the past about how different orgs in different games have different ways around it. Like, for instance, way back when TI was kind of first introduced into Dota, there was a TI clause in a lot of contracts, which was if for any reason you competed at a tournament where the prize was over $1 million. Remember, when TI was first introduced, that was a pipe dream for esports, not just Dota, the percentage went up from whatever nominal amount it was, usually 5 or 10. It went up to 50 because the orgs were eyeing a payday and they realized this was one way to get it. And that was at the time, this is like 2012, 2013. That was considered to be quite cynical. And players didn't like it. Players were like, look, if we win TI, we should get the bulk of the TI money, no 50% clause. So, and similarly, in Counter-Strike, when we started doing the majors, big tournaments, the notion among players was, if we win the tournament, we should get the bulk of the prize money. Now, organizations like, I want to say Team Liquid, I think they had a 10% amount. I think, there was there was a few, but I'd never heard of anything higher than 25. And 25 was the dog shit orgs that couldn't really compete for players anyway. And they were just putting teams out there.
Often the logic there, which actually made sense in the market, was that's also the orgs that probably their team at the moment at the time of signing won't win much prize money. So they're almost gambling, Richard. I'll pay you the salary now, but if you ever get the money, I get it on the back. There was even almost a logic to that at the time, though. But put it this way, the area I noticed this last year was actually even ahead of you with the BGL angle bit. It's when I realized, wait a minute, there's some IEMs where the prize pool's 400k or something. What? And I looked, and it's just because all the money had gone into the team share.
So
what's technically $1 million
ESL
wasn't available to players
on their Intel Extreme Masters tour. They're saying, and it's a $1 million prize pool, but 70% goes to the org on the smaller stops on the tour. And so, if you're in, again, like a Guangzhou or I believe there was a Dallas.
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
It's all the long travel, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So not only do the players get absolutely gaped in having to fly to the other side of the fucking world, like 20 fucking time zones removed from where they would be at a PGL event in Bucharest, they also get 30% of the prize money they would have ordinarily had. And what people have to remember is, and I'll throw this up to the floor after this point, right, take it with a pinch of salt. Richard Lewis does work as a freelancer for PGL. I do like PGL. I like the people at PGL. I'm proud of the product that we put out at PGL. I'm probably biased towards PGL on some level. But I'll say this. PGL originally said to all of the teams and all of the orgs, why don't you just distribute the prize money how you want? We'll give it to you. And then whatever internal discussions have to happen between you and your players, you do it. We'll give you the $1 million. You split it how the fuck you want. And they turned around and said, if you don't officially codify that we get 50% of the prize pool, we're not coming to your events, and good luck. And that's bullshit. And players sat there and went, well, whatever. We're in the haves. We're not in the have-nots. All your Nikos, all your people on your big fucking organizations, they don't care. Their 50 grand a month salary, it turns up no matter what the fuck they do. Prize money is neither here nor there. They've got bonus structures in their contracts, but if you're an up-and-coming youngster on a team like Paravision, go fuck yourself. You just had 50% of potential prize money robbed by the orgs and sanctioned by, well, let's go all the way up to Valve. And it's bullshit. And a player association would have stopped that, but you don't got one. So well done, guys. You've done it again.
I feel like I need to just jump in on the team side a little bit here, just to provide context. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said because I agree with it fundamentally.
Grim, I love and respect you. You can disagree with anything I've said.
No, I'll disagree if I want to. The thing with the distribution from ESL is the money, the added money, right? So if you look at the prize pool for an IEM Dallas, it used to be $250K. They used to be the small satellite events. Cologne and Katowice were the big ones, the 1 millions. And they haven't changed really. I think they've added $250K or something on top. But all the money that used to be in the Louvre agreement is now channeled into the club share. So technically the prize pool for the players has actually risen, I think, technically.
I've heard this argument too.
It's not like the money's come out of nowhere.
Because it's gone up by 50K. Right, because it is 300 for the smaller events.
It might be 50K. But technically, the prize money's gone up for the players, and then the rest of it is now, instead of being given out via metrics that you don't know about and are hidden, to the 15 teams there, is now purely performance based, essentially. So I do see the argument, and I think that yes, every single team could have gone and renegotiated all their contracts to make it so that the prize pool was the prize pool. Alternatively, ESL could just keep paying out the teams in the same sort of way, and all the contracts could remain the same.
Particularly in the PGL instance, PGL are doing $1.25 million prize pools, and 600K of that is going, to the teams now. Now, it wouldn't have ordinarily. It would have been, I like what PGL are saying there. It shouldn't be contingent on a tournament organizer to split your money up for you. Have the conversation with your players, you fucking cowards. If you don't want to do it, if you don't want to put a clause in the contract, you think they'll leave. That's a you problem. That isn't on PGL or ESL or anyone else to solve. That's you have that debate
100%.
with your players.
I completely agree with that aspect of it. I think it was just easier at the time. For ESL and Blast, and obviously
because they were hungry, man. The big juicy delicious milk filled teat of fucking franchise leagues have been ripped out of the mouth. You're now going on formula, right? And they didn't like it, and this is where we're at now in terms of the finances and Counter-Strike it is this ongoing problem we never really solved. The team owners and their wants and needs and desires. They have never had to go out into the actual marketplace and make a functional organization. They've never had to do it. One of the reasons why I respect G2, used to respect 100 Thieves, is they went out and they made a business, and people can laugh and mock and go, oh, yeah, you sell more merch than you do esports stuff. If that's what you got to do, fucking underwrite the org.
I would like to sell more merch than esports stuff.
Yeah, correct. Correct, right? If that's what you've got to do to underwrite the business, it's fucking more respectful than going to everyone who has money begging. In fact, not even begging. Begging is like, well, begging is, there's a choice involved. Demanding, strong-arming, threatening, leveraging your little pathetic slice of the pie to take it out of the hole. It's unbelievable. I mean, like, let's just put it this way. Does anyone believe if, like, all of the big orgs had actually done what they said they were going to do and pulled out of ESL events and pulled out of PGL events and pulled out of Blast events, what are they doing? You're paying all that money every month for a team that doesn't even fucking compete. How do you make any money back on your sponsors? You don't. And this is what I mean. The owners of these orgs talk a lot about ecosystem, but they don't understand what an ecosystem actually is because they are retarded and shouldn't be running businesses. That's 95% of all org owners. I don't care where they come from, what background they've got, what degrees they've got, what experience they've got. Something happens when they pass through that membrane into esports, they become retarded and make terrible decisions.
I mean, it's also true that, 100 Thieves gets a lot of flack because they're very public. Like, basically the way they've monetized are through consumer facing companies, keyboards or energy drinks or merchandise. But there's a lot of people that are monetizing in other ways. Like, for example, a lot of the orgs have other businesses. We know about NIP and their crypto business, right? Their crypto mining business. That probably, I know that makes them more money than esports does. It's their core business, really. And when we talk about, let's say, Team Liquid, well, they have a bunch of media agencies. They actually represent brands that are sponsors of Team Liquid as part of their agency process.
How are Team Liquid not making money? Just answer me that question. How? How?
But they have like a lot of other businesses. Or, for example, Gen G, maybe their core business right now is gaming academies. What they do is they provide esports coaching to like youth, basically, in Korea. So people are finding all these other ways to support the esports teams. It's just that 100 Thieves gets the shit for it because they're the most, like, they advertise for their own products, whereas these other companies, like, how's NIP going to advertise for crypto mining? Like, they can't.
And you're being generous because you're listing the other companies that actually have contingent businesses and complement. Nate, the reason why it was always stupid is because the kind of person who went, 100 Thieves hoodie org was like a TSM fan where it's like, as Richard says, they just go to a guy and go, I promise it'll 100x in 5 years. Can I have more money? Like, that's worse than being hoodie org.
Yeah,
They're selling a real product people want to buy. You're just scamming a guy and then in the end, he gets his fingers burned. How's that more reputable?
Yeah,
it was bizarrely. I know, it's weird.
It's also 100 Thieves or not 100 Thieves, TSM. Like, they went to FTX because the CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried.
Something like that.
He was a TSM fan.
It just threw me off because it does look like his name's Bankman-Fried, and then obviously he did fry himself as a bank.
He is fucking fried, isn't he? Yeah.
He is fried now. But, he was a TSM fan. And
he even looked like the average TSM fan.
I'm not saying you should always look. He did. I'm not saying you should look a gift horse in the mouth if they're going to offer you a bunch of money. But surely you should have suspected something when FTX was offering you multiples more of any other sponsor.
As the old saying
for no
goes,
reason.
If something's too good to be true, get in there. It's too good to be true, bro. It's going to be awesome, as Lexi once told me.
Anyway, so that's a bit of
a nicer guy, though, couldn't it? Couldn't have to a nicer guy.
Shame it took down TSM. Real shame.
No, but listen, I'm going to say something stunningly controversial. I'd rather the average fucking owner was a Reginald than whatever the fuck we've got now. I mean that.
I mean, who knows what we really have now?
That's what I mean. Like it's just some suit that came in from another. They fucking failed in another business, and now they're just here making decisions. It's like the G2 is the one. Like I still to this day cannot believe because Carlos took a photo of Andrew Tate,
I know.
we had to have a board upheaval. Like, is Andrew
Like, why is that the meme of, time traveler moves a chair and then it's a pyramid instead of Big Ben or something? I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? So stupid.
Literally, by the way, he wasn't even in the original picture.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And also, look, a non-zero amount of G2 fans are also Andrew Tate chuds. So is it even off-brand?
Yeah, no. By the way, that's why I even think Carlos did it, because he thought everyone loves my edgy banter. They're going to think, because by the way, do you not think that tells me to this day? Listen, if he's watching, I'd say it to his face. I believe he vaguely, in an acquaintance way, knows Andrew Tate. He's not friends with him.
I think he might not even have met him. I genuinely think.
No, this is what I'm going to say now. If you ever watch the video, it is done in the same way. Surely you can relate to this, losers on the internet. It's done in the same way as if you went to a TwitchCon and some fucking fame Pokemon was behind you and you went like this with the camera, so it looked like she was in there. It was like that. It was even done like that, almost as the gag.
Also,
the whole point was he wasn't really like, hey, I'm with her. Because then why wouldn't he be like, hey, here's my mate? And then you go, hi, G2 fans.
Also,
the whole thing was a storm and a take.
When you gave Carlos nothing to lose, surely if he had more Andrew Tate photos, he would have released them. Right?
I mean, the obvious angle, since it was the stupid drama that never was real, is they were like, don't let Andrew Tate into esports. But if that was logical, if Andrew Tate wanted in and Carlos wanted him, they'd make an org together.
No, but also, like, Andrew Tate doesn't know what esports is, and I'm sure if he does, he would find it, like, risible and pathetic.
By the way, isn't his whole platform that, like, esports for losers?
Yeah, I know.
Video games
for losers.
Yeah. So the whole thing was nonsense. But
I don't want to get lost in the sauce.
Yeah. Let's not get lost in the sauce. So I'm going to bring it back on point.
You guys are all very technologically savvy. So I'm sure you're aware that most of those big tech companies, they don't only want you to give them money, they also want as much data on you as possible, because then they go ahead and sell that to data brokers or to other companies, often without your knowledge. So don't be a product, guys, especially for something like your ISP. They don't need to know your browsing history. I think you probably want that to be actually private. And guess what? Incognito mode, privacy modes, they don't save you. You actually have to encrypt your connection. And that's where our sponsor, ExpressVPN, comes in, because they make it incredibly easy so that you don't have your data harvested. You can run it in the background. They have servers all over the world, so it's extremely fast. Just pick one by you. You won't even notice it's on. Runs on an app in the background of your computer or your phone. It's incredibly unobtrusive. You pick your server, hit literally one button, and then it goes on forever as long as your PC or phone remains turned on. They are also at the lowest price ever right now. Plans start at just $3.49 a month. That's 12 cents a day. So, I would just go ahead and get it. Also, if you want to save money, if you're following along with our shows Nerd Legion or Foreplay here on LFN, and you watch movies, well, you're probably already paying for a bunch of subscriptions, and then you stumble across that one movie that's not on your subscription, but it is on Netflix in France or the UK or India or Korea. And you're already paying Netflix, so why not just pop on over with ExpressVPN to one of those locations, turn on Netflix, and then watch it with the subscription you're already paying. Boom, saved you money on an Amazon Prime or Apple TV rental right there. So not only that, you get good value from your other subscription. It also encrypts 100% of your network traffic to keep your data safe from hackers, even when you're on public Wi-Fi, which we all use a bunch these days. So it's just a nice safety precaution for you. They also have optional dedicated IP service engineered with innovative zero-knowledge design. Not even ExpressVPN can trace an IP address back to the user. So go ahead. Sign up for ExpressVPN. You can secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/horsemen. That's plural, HORSEMEN. That's EXPRESSVPN.com/horsemen to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months. expressvpn.com/horsemen. And thanks a lot to ExpressVPN for your continued sponsorship of our show. Remember, guys, one of the best ways to support us, support our sponsors.
So now, the other thing we were talking about was the playing in tournaments during the player break. And so,
yes, let's do that.
In Counter-Strike, the player break was kind of hard fought to essentially structure our year around 2 seasons: tournaments, major break, tournaments, map change, tournaments,
which is a good
break.
structure, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, people like Graham, me, maybe Duncan, I think we were proselytizing about this 10 fucking years
and
ago.
let me just explain for non-Counter-Strike fans, because a lot of the teams and players and casters are on the road like 200 days a year. And they deserve the breaks. First off, usually it was in July, like I said, and then also the other one was around the holidays in December and into January, right? But also this is a good thing for the scene, because you really just don't want the calendar to be so overloaded. And it was like an insane arms race between all the TOs to grab as much of the calendar as they could. And they would just literally run an event where you'd have a 1-day turnaround to fly to the next place. And if you want this scene to be sustainable, you need to make it so people who have families can still be players, right? Hopefully. And it was getting really overwhelming, I think.
Let me do another counterpoint. Again, that's because, Monty, the people who are talent are at the top of the food chain again. So what you don't know is you're all just doing crazy bourgeoisie fucking complaints. And then the poor starving guy's like, can I have a fucking job? Can I be in the scene? So I'll give you an example. My mate Moses would tell me that all the time. We're all burned out. There's too many events. Motherfucker, can there be an event where someone else can work the event, bro? Can you? Do they all just have to only be you working? Yeah, but I want to do all the events and then have it. Can we just stop the game when I'm not doing an event though? Because I want time. I'm going fucking la-di-da, little Lord Fauntleroy. Can the rest of us have a job? So similarly, when you say that, Monty, like, they need a break. Sounds like a perfect time where we can have a player break with a tier 3 tournament where a guy who isn't in tier 1 could actually have a gig, and we can find the next rising talent in the same way as some of the teams are hustling and going to them. Because that's the problem. By the way, this was all really neat when we only had tier 1, because as long as we were only catering to tier 1, then it works for a player break. It works for time off. The problem is what we've now done with VRS. This is really the bigger discussion, in my opinion. The part people don't like about VRS is it has blurred the lines, hasn't it? Like, there isn't a strict tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It even works based on regions now. That's even added a component, hasn't it? So one of the problems people have is if you only think of it as tier 1, here would be my analogy. It would be like saying, for Formula 1, we want to have like bricks so there's no other car racing in the world. But what? Like, the whole reason that sport even works is it's totally tiered. And you can even have
stopping levels. Formula 2, right, at the same time.
So anyway, the point is, like, that's one part I think people also miss is, like, my issue is the bigger deal of, like, if it turns out that VRS, I don't think this has happened yet, actually makes it, as far as I can tell, actually, the real tier 1 teams aren't incentivized to go to small lands. If anything, don't they only do it at the end of the major cycle cynically to get into a stage 3 if they're in stage 2 or something like that? Like, at the end of the day, you're very rarely actually going to see the real teams that basically let's be real, the real teams are having a player break. They're doing it right now. They're not even shooting the steps. They didn't watch the SEC Power League. All the good teams at the major pretty much aren't doing that. Like, it was only the ones that snuck in at the end. By the way, when you see Bet Boom's there, remember Bet Boom was a stage 1 team.
Yeah.
They only just made the major at the end. Like, I know it looks fucked up because they made top 8, but they just had a miracle run on that one, boys. Again, because they made top 8 at the major, do I want someone to turn around and go, right, that's basically all you did the whole season almost. You're not allowed to play for the next month. This is why I actually think this is a really complicated topic. And this is also why, in a way, for tier 1, these are all totally valid concerns. But some of the people at tier 2 and tier 3, I think, are in the boat I'm in of sort of like, well, why do I have to get punished? Like, just because you want to sit home, can't I play a tournament? Can't I work an event? Can't I fucking get involved? Can't I, by the way, here's a good one for you. Maybe I don't need 4 weeks off. Maybe I can go with 2 weeks and I want to grind another week. Are we going to punish that guy for grinding?
I mean, look, I'm sure Graham will agree with me. For me, I think, like, it's good that we fought for the space,
Sure.
but, like, it's got to be optional. I mean, like, it can't just be like an armistice where we all say, hey, guys,
no, exactly.
We're not going to go to any events, right? All of us, like, tier 1 teams up top. And also as well, I mean, like, your point about what it does to broadcast talent is also true. It's like, hey, look, I would love a calendar where there's only tier 1 events happening. And I can just go to all of them. That is what a lot of broadcast talent think.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very I don't want to say delusional. That's not the right
entitled.
word. Well, yeah,
but
like
think from their own perspective.
It's tunnel vision.
By the way,
It's
I'll
tunnel
even
vision.
throw this in there. Even the example you gave, Monty, that is perfectly valid for you. You have a child. Guess what, Monty? What if Richard chose not to have a child? He didn't. What if he chooses to work during those weeks? Right? Is he not allowed to because you want to have time for your kid? Guess what, mate? That's a luxury you're choosing to have. So if Richard instead decides to grind, I don't know about you, I like a world where people are rewarded for merit and grinding and putting in effort. You know, if I work harder than you in the hours where you're sleeping,
I should be rewarded for my pull-out game.
Exactly.
Fuck you, Monty.
Exactly. There you go.
I think you should have a mandatory child.
No, fuck you. No, but I mean, so I'll bring Graham in here. Like this is the point, right? We fought for this break, but it's got to be optional. And if people need to ignore it to get VRS points or whatever's going on, then that's their choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm torn on it as well. Like I was very much in favor of it for a long time. Like, you know, from a player welfare perspective, it's important that the players are able to take a break. You know, to give you an example of like how we planned our season this year, Device was getting married. So we knew he was getting married 4th of July. Cool. Week off before, week off after, 2 weeks off. That's good for him. Like, we're not going to make him play up to his wedding day and play the day after his wedding day. That's crazy. So for us, it was pretty simple. Like we were going to take a 2-week break. We then added a third week, the week before that, to have 3 weeks off, which has been the sort of typical standard break for the past, 5 years?
I mean, even when they say the play breaks X number of weeks, most people come back a week early to practice and get ready for the next event anyway, right?
Yeah, usually like the full break was like 4 or 5 weeks, but the players would take like 3 or 4 weeks and then come back and typically go straight into the Blast Bounty, which is exactly what we're doing.
It's even why, famously, it isn't just, by the way, because of the play break. Another reason why some teams would be shit the Blast Bounty is those are the teams that didn't take a week before. Some of them really just flew to the event and scrimmed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes on Complexity, we would like rock up like 3 days before. We just like fly straight from home, land like 3 days before the Blast group stage, just play that off like 3 days practice, and that was it. So yeah, it really depended on like, especially before 2024, when we didn't have the majors as the end of the season. You know, it was very ambiguous when your season ended anyway, because the majors were in like May. And then you would have this weird like 3-4 week period where you'd go to like IEM Dallas, you'd go to like the weird like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Yellow Compass, Get Dubai events. And, you know, your season would end kind of when you didn't have something left over. But because those invites were, you know, not based on like a tiered system, you know, some orgs would have preferential treatment and go to all of them and some wouldn't. So like people's breaks were all over the place back then. At least now it's a little bit more structured with like the major ends on a very clear date. The problem is that you can't plan if you're going to make the major or not. So you don't know if you can take the time off during the major.
Let me cue you up for this. There's another problem people don't realize. In the old system, I could invite you. By the way, if you do well at a tournament now and I have an event in 3 weeks, I can invite you, Graham. That doesn't exist in VRS. The invites go out months before. Based on, so also another problem is this. It's why I actually told people, the best example for this is FaZe Clan, by the way, because I told people, I can tell you're all still just lost in that old paradigm. Because remember when FaZe Clan lost that HLC Belgrade final to Big, and everyone went, well, that's the end of the season for FaZe Clan. I went, oh, you don't understand VRS. That's the beginning of a nightmare season for FaZe Clan. Because now they have to earn their way back into the circuit during the major. If anything, they have to hustle for any lands out there to get back in the fucking circuit, bro. Like, it's the opposite. Like, the problem here is, it's also why, by the way, that's what people really didn't like about the major. You know, when people say, I want an RMR, no, I've actually split the difference. What you want is a tournament right before the major that qualifies you. We don't have that in VRS because, again, it's going to be determined for the major, probably like a month and a half before the major, if you qualified or not. I actually pointed this out to people. One of the things that felt unsatisfying to some people about stage one is like, why is Gamer Legion here? They've just had a top 4 in a final at tournaments after the VRS cut off. Like, that they've already qualified, so those don't count for them. Same with Spirit. Why was Spirit in stage 2? They just made IM Rio final because that was right at the cut-off. So again,
but that's fixed for Singapore.
Go on then.
That's fixed for Singapore though, because they moved the date, right? They moved the date to November from October. So at least there's like 1 month less of like that lag, which I agree.
I was saying that to cue up the fact that, as you're saying, you can't really plan out 6 months. Like, you can, if you get all the invites, maybe you'd have a chance. But if you're anywhere in the middle, you're always going to be in flux to some degree, right?
Yeah. And I think this season is going to be the worst for it because of that extra month, like the invites are basically decided already.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
why
weird
you said earlier.
comment to
There's a lot of people still think I can invest now and get a new player and I'm going to make it. It's like, mate, this season's almost cooked for you. You have to get through the needle with that on.
Yeah, I reckon there's probably like 3 or 4 America's slots. Asia's always a crapshoot anyway. For Europe, it's probably like 3 slots are probably available by this point because now like there's like an extra month of tournaments. I think it's like PGL Bucharest now counts. Pro League now fully counts. And I think there's a Thunder Pick like $1 million event. And because all those invites go out in July and August, like, I mean, the July ones have already gone out. The August ones are pretty much already decided because the only major tournament between now and then is the Blast Bounty, right? So
yeah,
the majority of like the top 16 teams have already got the invites to every single event this year for the rest of the year that counts. So good luck trying to overtake them. So like it's that's problematic for sure. Like I think that the season basically already being decided into, I don't know who's going to make stage 3, who's going to make stage 2, whatever, but like the majority of the teams who have qualified for the next major was decided in June, which is kind of a problem.
And let's be real, one of these aspects is a logistic aspect. We can't be idealistic. Like, for example, one reason why they do it this way as well is things like, actually, if we had the old circuit, it's incredibly unfair in the modern day. For example, to Russians, you'll never get a visa when you get the invite to the event. Like, that's why I keep seeing, people have said this to me a million times. I actually have had to tell Maui, stop saying it on shows, boy, you're just wrong. He would keep doing that thing like fans on HLTV, we'd go, well, it's Spirit's own fault for skipping that LAN. It's like, bro, they can't spend more than a certain number of days in the Schengen area. Like, and if they go, they then, like, if they need a visa for America, have to go back to give the passport to someone to get the visa. It's like, if you actually just knew the logistics they face versus like someone in Germany or America, it's night and day. We're not comparing the same thing here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually getting worse for the Russians now, I think, because they're now mostly only being, like, I think new Russian visas for Schengen are only being granted single entry visas now, where they used to get like multi-year, multi-entry visas. So I think it's actually getting worse for the Russians now. And I'm not, okay, I'm not going to put myself in a weird position here by sympathizing, but like I think it's getting worse. But we also had the same issue with the Schengen days with the American team.
Everyone, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like we had to give up on like boot camp days, or like we could only attend a certain few events.
Because the reason I bring this up, by the way, is I know you were a champion of the idea. I actually agree with it in principle too. Of like, we also want to know where these tournaments take place, and we want to know what region and what visa do we need, and we want to know this in theory as soon as possible. But if you do that, you then get into a world like this where there's a lot less mobility for everyone.
Yeah. No, there's definitely still some growing pains, and I think this season with the month extra of tournament qualification, adding like 2 or 3 tier 1 events to it, I think that honestly, like it's going to be next to impossible for a lot of teams to even like think about qualifying. You have to be one of those teams that like gets like a very good run into like a star ladder qualifier, or qualify for Bucharest. If you qualify for Bucharest, which is like the last event that qualifies, and then you have a good run at Bucharest, you can maybe sneak in. But like nobody's going to be sneaking in from fucking HLC Belgrade Pro, whatever it is. Like no one's sneaking in from Drekulan anymore, unless those events become like 500k events that actually have like some significance to them. Like the thing is like in the first like 2 or 3 rounds of this, the teams were qualifying because they didn't have the land wins. Now everyone has land wins. Like the average points across like the ecosystem has just risen to a point where land wins are basically just like you have to have them. And if you basically have to sort of like just go like tick off, yeah, cool, we've been to a land, we've got 5 land wins from this one, we'll get 5 from that one. Now we're equal with everyone else. That's like the starting point. That used to be like the qualification. Now it's just like everyone has it. And now like you're actually getting into like the meat of it, where you actually have to have like valuable wins at valuable events against valuable teams. And the simple fact of the matter is there's only a limited amount of those matches available, limited amount of those slots available, and the majority of them are taken up by the same 16 teams. So you're never going to get in there in the Europe region, at least. You're almost never going to get there. The Americas are going to have some slots available. Asia's going to have some slots available. Asia is a shit show in general because you've got like 4 geographically completely different regions that just are all basically trying to boost themselves. So Australia's running events for Australians, Mongolia's doing it for Mongolians, China's doing it for China, and somebody will qualify. Asia is just a disaster. America will be fine. The NRGs, M80s, Furias, Legacies, they'll all qualify, and then there'll be like a crapshoot for the last 3 slots, most likely from Brazil, because Brazil can do 50, 100K events, and America can do 10K events. So most likely Brazil.
If you guys are inspired to do some content creation of your own, but you don't really feel like you have the skills necessary to start, you may want to check out ZenAI. Now, ZenAI is the home of vibe casting, which is a new way to capture and share conversations. Now, you might think about vibe coding. So, for example, Claude Cowork made it possible for just about anyone, even if you didn't have top-tier coding skills, to build their big ideas. ZenAI helps anyone turn a conversation into something worth sharing. So like a podcast, a reel, a TikTok, you do not have to have production skills. So what happens is you just use your phone, and at the heart of ZenAI is an AI producer. So the producer will handle the edit from audio cleanup to the creation of clips. You collaborate with your AI producer conversationally. So you make audio and video edits just by chatting with it in English. It's really quick. All you have to do is hit record, have a conversation, and a draft of, say, your sportscast is ready. And right now, ZenAI is currently in an invite-only beta. So you join the waitlist today for a chance at early access. So go to zen.ai to sign up, or head down below to our link, click on it, and you can be there and get set up with your own vibe casting. So thank you very much to ZenAI for sponsoring our show, and I hope to see a few of you guys making your own esports-related content or other content out there using ZenAI.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know, the reason why he's mentioning all these prize values is that the current calculations, and I want to get your takes on this, of VRS. So the way teams earn points in order to qualify for the majors and move up rankings is that the primary metric is in prize pool for the tournaments, which also allows, as we're going to talk about soon, this Chinese event or other events to have large prize pools, maybe without running the best tournaments, right? Because
the best example ever, Monty, was why there was a female team qualified last year to the circuit, which was ESL Impact, had big prize money, and it was mad. Yeah. Now, the gag of that is the Saudis took care of that one for us, actually. Then we've solved that little loophole for us. Don't worry about it. But that doesn't excuse the fact that was the most extreme version, because in that one, you could qualify to a tier 1, I will say, mate, it was just tier 1 Counter-Strike tournament by never playing any tier 1 team, because Nicholas played all the female teams. That was the extreme version of it. But if you understand that mechanism, that still to some degree exists.
And because basically, the standings are based off of how much prize money you've earned. And also it depends on the prize money of other teams that you've beaten. So if there are teams, there's a way to game the circuit basically by playing lesser but high value tournaments, so that you also get more points, because the teams that participate in this circuit will also have a lot of prize money, which then boosts you up the rankings when you actually beat them. So I don't think anybody's optimized the system yet. And indeed, there may not be a way to optimize it, but it does create a secondary issue where tournament organizers are incentivized to put a larger amount of their budget into prize pools, as opposed to, say, making a good LAN experience, doing a good broadcast, right?
And as pointed out, I know, by people like messioso, there's even an element which is inherently flawed, because Valve doesn't seem to keep a granular detail on all this, which is, actually, I'm even more incentivized, Monty, even if the prize money isn't real. Why don't I just say it's $1 million tournament and you will never get paid the million, but you'll get the VRS points? And it's not like after you make the major and then we find out it is real, you can go back in time and invite me. That's a real thing. People still don't know that door is wide open still.
Graham, you could correct me, but Valve isn't actually checking that bank transfers are made, right?
No. I mean, the most famous one right now is Fisher Playground. They haven't paid their prize money, I think,
and they did exactly that. By the way, they did both
last year. So
they simultaneously did player break tournaments and said it was $1 million or something. So the gag is, as long as the teacher isn't checking the homework, they're just sending the assignments in on the time, etc., and getting all the top marks.
We'll have our $1 billion LFN Classic event.
Yeah, I think there has been like allegedly some like, I don't want to say like any tournament organizers, but I think there's allegedly been some Chinese tournaments that have legitimately just been fake prize money. Like the teams have just sort of agreed, like, hey, we'll play for $100,000.
How weird that a Chinese tournament would do that. I've never heard that.
Yeah,
one.
but the point he's making here that's also sus though, Monty, is it can even literally be a conflict of interest that the teams themselves would go along with it because they get the VRS points. So in the end,
exactly,
no one paid any money.
Exactly.
It was a semi-imaginary land, but at the end, you get the same points as coming like 12th place at a real IEM that we all know is an established tournament. Yeah.
I mean, what was that? What was that event where it was? What fuck was it? Tai Lu?
Tai Lu just forfeiting because they realized they qualified.
One.
So they,
the one where it looked like mission get Tai Lu into a major, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it was
for people who don't know,
keeping the Aussies out. It was about keeping the Aussies out. Yeah, because what had happened was the Chinese fans had identified that there was all these small Australian lands that were boosting.
Hence why Thunder Down Under got there. Yeah,
Thunder Down Under.
But they got the idea from China. So
it's not like they were the first an arms race. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And then basically we ended up with an event where it was like everybody forfeited the entire bracket. That I think it was Linvision.
Linvision got a forfeit against Rare Atom, then Tai Lu. Then Tai Lu came back and played the lower bracket final and then forfeited again in the grand final. Like, what the fuck?
By the way, that's like another level of conflict of interest because now in that case, Tai Lu were already qualified. So essentially, if you're just friends with Linvision, why not let them come too? Like, you actually, by the way, here's why that's nightmare fuel. Because again, this is where, notice how, by the way, I noticed this entire topic should make a philosophical point that everyone will miss, which is this is why it's not even that dictators are evil. You can't centrally plan a giant continent or the entire world with the same rules for everyone and think it will run because, for example, a European economy is different from an Asian economy, is different from a South American one. So one of the things that was also fucked in this sense is this wouldn't actually happen, believe it or not, in a lot of Western countries. Like, I'll tell you what, I don't care what they say in interviews. Anytime I used to be friends with Danish players, the second place Danish team desperately wants the best Danish team to lose the entire tournament and be made fools of. That is not the case in countries like Korea and China. In countries like Korea and China, the patriotic nationalism would supersede even domestic rivalries, and you would want the other Chinese team to qualify, not an Australian team. So now you're having weird, like, political and, like, fucking personal elements being weaved into who's qualifying to a tournament, which I'm pretty sure no one wants that finger on the scale, right? But again, how do you stop it?
We can just say this.
Designed for the European system.
We can just say this from other esports. Like, Thorin, you and I know that in League of Legends, there is very compelling evidence that throughout history of worlds, Chinese and Korean teams have colluded with other Chinese or Korean teams, not each other, but
by the way, the
within
gag
Korea
back
and China.
in the day before it was considered like outrageous. In the 2000s, bro, they used to just say in the interview, like, yeah, I lost to him because I wanted the other Korean guy to go. It just wasn't even considered like a bad thing back then. It was just a strategy.
But the thing is like, we know like Korean or Chinese teams will share scrim information with other teams from their region to try and defeat non-Chinese or non-Korean teams, right? It's that is a well-known thing where now teams go into international competitions and they can't practice certain things against certain other teams because of the risk that it will then go to their opponents. Because you have to remember a world.
The point I was making basically quite simply is this though. The logical, by the way, it's a total logical. It's how it works in the West. The logical concept of a tournament is we're all trying to beat each other. Our self-interest is I'm trying to beat you as hard as I can and get as far as I can. What happens, essentially, we're asking the question in a system where you need people to do that if everyone secretly colludes behind closed doors. Like, you're actually, I don't even know, by the way, how Valve would even check it colluded. Like, what they're going to do against some iBuy power shit, get logs. It's a nightmare. To even open that door is difficult.
Yeah. Maybe impossible.
I mean, it's China, man. Like, you just gotta laugh. It's like we had for years tournaments that were like created by these like organizations that had no history, no pedigree. Who the fuck are they? What's going on? And ever since the introduction of VRS, you would just have these like rolling tournaments with people playing. And now it used to just be the Chinese teams getting in on it. And now we've got ones where it's like, hey, look, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, but come to a tournament. There's $1 million apparently from sponsors that are real and exist. So just come out here and play in this tournament and get your VRS points. And by the way, I mean, look, I'll say this. Yeah, FaZe probably had to go to a tournament like this because of everything Monty outlined. But also, FaZe have a fuck ton of fans in China. Like they're one of the bigger orgs out there. Like it's like Falcons, FaZe, you know. So it's a no-brainer to go. I mean, it just enhances their reputation and marketability in a growing region in Counter-Strike. Makes total fucking sense. But yeah, like
I'll even throw this one out there, just as some little bit more gumbo in the pot. How about this? We're all laughing again because the joke in the West is you have to be semi-official when you scam people and do dodgy things. By the way, that's at least ESL says what the prize share is. What if in China they secretly tell you, FaZe, you get 50k appearance fee, or you get 2k appearance? For all we know, that's going on with those tournaments too. It's just not public, so we can't even criticize that because we have no fucking clue what goes on behind closed doors.
And good luck getting to the bottom of it because it's that stuff's all off book, and if you ever speak out about it, you ain't going to China no more, brother. So you ain't getting that visa, especially now with what Graham's talking about. So they are moving to these like single appointment. Well, it used to be when you had a visa, you had a visa. They would have to specifically interfere with your shit to not let you in the country. Now it's like if you're one and done, woof, everybody's going to be keeping quiet.
You just reminded me of something. Sorry, it's completely
gone.
Real from 2014, and I was sitting in the back of a Chinese taxi, and they had like a screen on the back of it, and it was like a quiz, and one of the questions was something like, "Who is to blame for road quality, poor road quality in China?" And it was like A, your local authority. B, and then the C was like the Chinese government, and I was like, "This seems like a trap." This seems like a trap to me. Yeah,
that's when they reroute you to the brainwashing HQ.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyway, to the point about like attending these tournaments to earn points. I look, is it maybe slightly against the spirit of what the player break is meant to be? It's meant to literally be anyone that's going to be competing at a certain level. The players get a break. They can't be compelled to go and compete at tournaments by their orgs. It's meant to be like a 4-week amnesty of any play whatsoever. Sure, that kind of sucks. But on the flip side, I'm pretty sure the players in FaZe want to get back and climb the VRS, and they want to get back to the fucking world where they're going to not miss majors ever again. I'm sure it really shook those players that especially after everything they did, where they flew all around Europe to go to these smaller lands and got within one series of being at a major. I'm pretty sure they're never going to want that to slip ever again.
It's even why I personally don't have as much sympathy for Frozen and Twists if it was ever true that they were affronted by Carrigan leaving.
Yeah.
Dickhead, he is 36 years old. This is probably the end of his career. What, he has to tank 6 months to not get into the lands Graham was talking about, because you're in a bad shape, by the way, FaZe. You're all fucking like 25. Do you not understand there's an asymmetry to your careers? Like, if he gets the Falcons offer, fair play to Frozen, who at the end just admitted, like, actually, wouldn't we all have taken like an offer like that if we'd have had it? I think the bullshit thing there was acting like we're all in the fucking, we're all in the scouts and we have 15 years ahead of us. If you're Carrigan, mate, your choices there are probably just fucking retire or go to Falcons. Like, I know you had the contract extension, but what's that worth if you're playing at tier 2, tier 3 tournaments? So I also think, again, we're drawing these hard and fast lines where, like, they're different for everyone, mate. There's gradations of this stuff here.
Well, and it's also, a truth here is to be sympathetic to FaZe also, the organization, because they have put in an enormous amount of money over a decade into Counter-Strike, right? And I am sure that missing the major is a huge blow to them in terms of sponsorships. I imagine there are clauses in their sponsorship contracts that will not give them as much money if they miss the major, for example. And even though the sticker money might not be as much as it was, probably stickers for FaZe, if I had to guess, were one of the higher profitability ones because FaZe has a large fan base. So, I mean, them missing it also, it's like, so they should be penalized even though they got a break during the major. to not try and get into the next major where, sure, if you think that's unfair for whatever reason, okay, but then you have to ask a question, which is, as Messioso was talking about, a lot of the teams have already been decided for the next major. So should they just not go to a major ever again? What will that do to the investment in the scene? They're extremely reliable in terms of investment. And this is the problem, by the way. I know people hate the franchise systems, but this is one of the main issues with an open circuit is that once you start in this spiral of not being at tier 1 events or the most important events, it's really hard to get out of it because players won't sign with you. You have less money because of sponsorships. It can be a death blow, really. And do you want that for an organization that actually has been a championship tier org in the past and has done, I would assume, lost a bunch of money, frankly, within the space?
I mean, I don't know if Graham can say anything on this one, but I got my own views on whether FaZe should have the a good and rosy future. Like pretty much everything they've done to even get into Counter-Strike in the first instance is duplicitous on some level. So if the chickens are coming home to roost now, and by the way, they're not even spending money anymore, Monty. I mean, like framing them as a regular investor in Counter-Strike, they're picking up these dog
That's
shit.
why I always make the joke that even the way they've marketed it, the fact this worked with fans just shows how clueless fans are. Fans go, Thorin, don't worry about FaZe, mate. They've separated FaZe Esports from the FaZe thing. What, you mean the actual company that could make money? What? You've cut off all the spigots, you moron. That's terrible. Hence why, and now, by the way, you've even lost character. What have you got now in FaZe? FaZe Esports is a gag. Like, it's some, fucking living in the shadow of what it used to be. I know what you mean. FaZe isn't a giant in esports anymore, Monty. All you need to do is look at the players that have joined them. Mate, the gag would be some of those players would have been below the complexity level like Graham used to be 2 years ago. Like, it's a piss take now. So they're nothing now, mate. Like, I don't even know if they ever come back to being a big org, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure what's going on with their ownership. Like, at the ownership level, I'm not even sure what's going on. It was like, there was the split from, what was it, fucking Game Square.
The losing public entity. Because remember, they went public and then, that lost a bunch of money and then they split and,
Yeah. Well, it was a headline just the other day that they're going to get delisted from the NASDAQ again.
Yeah.
Right? But anyway, forget that for a second. So it's like, I heard that it was like they sold it back to Banks and Banks was in charge and then he isn't anymore, apparently. It was going to be like,
I think that's the creator wing, not the esports wing, to be fair.
But where the fuck does the esports wing live? Like, that's what I'm saying, man.
Esports wing's at Game
It's
Square,
confusing.
which is under
that's what I'm saying.
Eric.
So why is it using the FaZe brand all the time? Like, you know what I mean?
I think they leased the brand.
Because I remember they had that CDL team. And that had nothing to do with FaZe, apparently, operationally. Again,
okay, but that one was run by the same people who ran the Atlanta Overwatch League team, the Atlanta Reign.
Great.
And they were an Atlanta-based investment group that had both the Atlanta CDL team and the Atlanta Overwatch League team. So that was also separate. And that's another thing about FaZe is that FaZe has rented their branding out to other people.
Right.
At various different points in time, which is why it's hard to keep track of.
Yeah. So, I mean, this, by the way, should give everyone a more renewed respect for Carrigan. I think it's pretty clear at this point. Carrigan was essentially GMing the team on top of IGLing the team with no money or resources. Because, like I say, the players they're bringing in now, don't get me wrong, this Jaboin, or everyone's calling him Joe Biden for some reason on Reddit, he looks sharp. He started out really, really well. The Netu or Netanyahu connection, not doing as well, bizarrely. And then on top of that, obviously, Jacob, which coincidentally, I'm sure, was on a team that Carrigan's wife was the sports psychologist for. He's got to go because he's not fit at tier 1. But these are not the names you associate with the FaZe of old. Remember, FaZe announced their arrival with, hey, we're just going to make a fuck ton of money and buy a super team. We're the OG CSGO super team. That's what we are. You know, everybody on this roster has a big name. They are not that now. And honestly, if they pulled out a CS, I don't think they'd be all that missed, frankly. You know, I just don't. I think they're a relic of a bygone era where we were all so excited to have the Call of Duty names coming in and Envious and FaZe. We're like, oh shit, this is like, we're finally going like.
Well, I mean, and Optic as well, right?
Yeah.
You know, and this, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I think the reason behind that excitement is that NA Counter-Strike had needed a kick in the ass, and the hope was that they would, because Call of Duty is another FPS game, and Counter-Strike is very easy to get into for a viewership perspective, that they would be able to supercharge the American audience, which obviously would really, you know, I think one of the biggest disappointments of Counter-Strike is that Americans are not interested in the game. Because it would create a lot more dynamism.
I mean, the gag I always
scene.
say is that's even still the elephant in the room in the esports industry, in my opinion. I keep hearing like, esports is dead. What are you talking about? Like probably half the biggest orgs in the world are all American. By the way, there's a bunch in Counter-Strike. FaZe is an American org. They just don't care about
Team
American
Liquid.
players. Team Liquid's an American org. They've only gone to NA players now to get back in VRS. There's loads of them, mate. Gen G on some level has American ownership behind it.
Sure, yeah.
There's a million. How many fucking ones that are in other games? Like you say, Envy, go Optic, go down the line.
Joke is even T1 now, right?
The point is, these people just choose themselves not to actually be involved with NA players and NA teams. They be international teams. Even though, by the way, there's always an inherent flaw in that logic, in my opinion, which is in the short term, it's going to mean you're going to have a better team and you can win the tournament. To me, the obvious downside is you do still want to access the incredible NA sponsorship market, though, who wants to sell to NA fans. So on some level, no one's really sort of squared the circle on that one. It's still actually kind of like a thing where they sort of get the success in the game, but then they're not really. The obvious angle would be if you ever had a successful NA team with NA players, though, surely you'd max out, you know, then you'd be sitting in the catbird seat. So I still think that's even like a dodgy part in itself. Like a lot of the NA people just choose not to engage with Counter-Strike.
I mean, I've been struggling with that for many years, obviously, with complexity where, I mean, you can have an NA team and an NA org, but the sad part is to monetize a CS team to the level of your peers, you need to have gambling sponsorships. And that's just a market that is just very hard to break into in North America. So no matter how well we could do in America, we would never be able to compete with the budgets of any of the European teams. And every time, you know, we do decently, we'd get to playoffs and stuff, and then you lose to a team that's got like 2-3 times the budget of you every single time. And it's like, you know, we're going to keep losing to Mouse, and we're going to keep losing to.
It's another reason why I respect Falcons, because they were redressing that balance. You know,
great. Yeah, I mean they don't have a gambling sponsor, so technically they're doing it, right?
That would be very haram. I would imagine that would be very haram.
I'm just waiting for that dam to break, by the way.
That would be insane. By the way, this is
when
aside.
EWC gets the betting sponsor.
We had a player at Newcastle United. I think Ibrahim Ba. He went to, I think we ended up selling him at Chelsea. But anyway, we had our sponsor was a money loaning group called Wonga. And it's basically payday loans. What you do is, if you can't, like, it's really bad. If you can't, it was the.
By the way, Monty, you don't know how dark that is. The reason it's called Wonga is because that's poor people slang for money, and they want to literally appeal to like the kind of shithead. Like the obvious comparable business, if you know what really UK business is. You know when people have those ones where they'll deliver booze to you, booze for us with a Z. Again, you're supposed to, Monty, as a normal person, if you're middle class, go Jesus, but that's exactly who their target audience is. They know exactly who they're doing.
For us are synths, and I will not have
that's even a real one in Middlesbrough. I didn't even make that up.
But anyway, so because we had a payday lender sponsor, Ibrahim Bar, a Muslim player, he said, like, I can't wear that shirt with the logo on it.
Uzuri's literally not allowed, right? So, It's the concept,
right? He said, I believe in Sharia law, and we can't generate interest from our money. And then there was a photo released to the tabloids, and he was in a casino at 2 a.m.
Many such cases, unfortunately, that one.
That was the end of that discussion. All of a sudden, he was wearing that Wonga shirt, no problem. So I'm keeping keeping an eye on Falcons with great interest. Let's just put it that way.
And you can tell EWC is fake, by the way, by the fact that they don't have a betting sponsor.
Oh, it was Demba Ba. I've called him Ibrahim. Demba.
Yes.
My bad. Sorry.
You did sell him to Chelsea, yes.
Yeah. And we did sell him to Chelsea.
Many moons ago, when I was a student, one time I found myself in a situation where I didn't have much money, I didn't have much time, and I really needed to eat something so I could get on with a bunch of work and finish up a project I needed to do. So I went and looked in my little mini fridge, and all I had in there was some Yorkshire puddings, look it up if you don't know what that is, Americans, and I had some gravy, but I just had like the gravy granules, and back then I wasn't a particularly skilled chef, so I didn't even actually know the ways you can make things like gravy taste nicer. And I actually had to, because of how bad my prep technique was, even heat the Yorkshire puddings in the microwave. And I remember trying to put this makeshift meal together. And by the way, it didn't even work because, as you can imagine, the Yorkshire puddings didn't like rise all delicious like they would if you were to make them from scratch and then put them in an oven. I didn't even have an oven to make them crisp properly. They were all sort of soggy because they were in the microwave. And then the gravy, because I didn't know how to make it taste delicious, and I basically just used water and gravy granules, also didn't even taste like good gravy. And even worse, because traditionally you have Yorkshire puddings and gravy as part of an English roast, a classic Sunday meal, which is quite a luxurious, rich meal with all sorts of flavours that go together. The worst part was, it was almost like I was torturing myself by having some of the flavours that would go into that meal, but then I didn't get the flavour of the meat, I didn't get the flavour of the vegetables, I didn't even get the richness of how someone would properly prepare the Yorkshire puddings and the gravy. So you know what? If back then I'd have had access to Huel, then I could have just drunk one of these, the Black Edition, and it would have been a complete meal with no need for cooking or preparation. Now, I actually got sent some Huel samples and I wanted to try it out since I actually thought, you know what, I'll do it as intended as a complete meal. So what I did was I picked a day where, funny enough, a bit like in my student days, I had a whole bunch of work set out for that day. I didn't have a whole lot of time where I could either prep a meal myself or even particularly cook something I already had. And I didn't have time to go out. And I thought, right, I'll pick a meal, I'll pick lunch, and I will have this instead of having whatever I would normally have for lunch. And I've got to say, first of all, tastes fine, pretty legit flavour. This one was the strawberry banana, certainly does taste like strawberry and banana. I actually found it was easy enough to drink it in about 5-10 minutes, went down nice enough, and then yes, it did do what I hoped, is it kept me feeling full and satisfied for a few hours until I then got to my evening meal later on. Also, I'm someone who goes to the gym multiple times per week. I need fuel so that I can actually be in a position where my muscles can grow, etc. So the Black Edition powder is 40 grams of protein. It mixes with water or milk in 30 seconds. It is a complete meal that you have instead of food. It is not a shake on top of food or before you have some food. It has 27 essential vitamins and minerals, no artificial sweeteners, colours or flavours. The RTD bottle is the grab and go version. It's the one that I had before. This is 35 grams of protein, 7 grams of fibre, it's under $5 a meal. The offer that they have is 15% off online for new customers. And if you don't know, if you want to spell it out properly so you can track, it is spelt Huel. So check out Huel. It keeps you full for hours, so you will stop snacking your way through the afternoon and it will be a complete meal. If I'd had access to Huel all the way back then in my student days, I wouldn't have had to suffer, would I? I would have been able to have a complete meal, be fueled, and then get on with my day. So, limited time offer, make healthy eating simple. Get Huel today with my exclusive offer of 15% off online with my code LFN at huel.com/LFN. New customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show.
All right, I want to talk about XPL as an event itself, because I think we've highlighted some of the issues with this event that took place in China from a purely theoretical perspective, but you can see kind of how this plays out. Not to say that big money events in China that should have good production have always had good production. In fact, that has been a massive part of, Chinese esports in China has been the failure of esports in China from a product perspective, unless you literally are a Chinese company like Riot Games, and then you're fine. Obviously, it's fine because Tencent owns you. There really haven't been problems with China in Riot Games, but also Riot is playing by very different rules in China, including that they put like their entire broadcast on a 5-minute delay so they can pull the plug in case anybody says, Taiwan is its own country or something like that.
Don't ever say that.
Very famously.
Yeah, don't. That's a risky one.
See, we joke. ESL wishes that Cologne last year had that feature.
maybe that should actually just be a feature. It seems smart. Oh, what's the downside?
or that recent tournament where they played the voice com clip of NPL from Bait without having a Russian speaker on standby to tell them what they were saying.
Yeah,
again, I just want to cut that one if you could.
Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff's going to be something that happens moving forward anyway. I think all TOs are going to start pushing live voice comms, so I don't think that's going to be a discussion point eventually. I think eventually voice comms are just going to be free game. It's been trending that way for the last 2 or 3 years.
I would love to actually have that conversation because I think that's interesting. We'll come back to that.
Put a pin in it.
As far as Chinese events go, the point is that a lot of especially Valve events, Dota events, Counter-Strike events, even those that have big money and direct Valve support have struggled in China because of the firewall of delivery and streams to the West. However, XBL, let's discuss the issues at this particular event because this one seems to be extremely dodgy, especially for an event with a prize pool of this size. And this is kind of what we're talking about when it's like maybe too much of the money went to the prize pool. Is the prize pool even real? Who can know? Because it hasn't seemed like maybe they spent a lot of money on the actual operations. Or
my joke was cause two of the things claimed were that like someone was accessing someone's Steam account using like a middleman authenticator tool or something, and then also that there was keyloggers. My joke was because, by the way, the actual only way to fix half these problems would be satirically to do this as like a social exercise. Why don't I just announce the lad? It's got $10 million. You all arrive in China, country without an extradition policy that Valve's already shown they'll never punish. When you all arrive, the reason why it's a $10 million prize pool money is I'm going to have $10 million. I'm never going to pay you. What I've done is as keyloggers, when you all log in, the second you go on your plane, I steal all your skins, I steal everything off the whole thing, I take all your stuff from your bank accounts, everything, so I've got all your email access to that point. You're on a plane while it's all happening. When you land, you can't do anything about it in China. See you, dickhead. Welcome to paradise.
By the way, I want to just ask Graham, was this tournament something 100 Thieves could have gone to?
No, we were, we would have liked to. But no is the answer because it clashed with Device's wedding. So it was just, for us, that was always a no-go.
Right. Well, yeah.
We were never going to... We planned our player break for this summer around Device's wedding, which also clashed with the event. So for us, it was never going to be something that we would have attended. We would have gone to the Draculaland the week before if we had planned our player break.
Still one of the greatest
later.
tournament names in esports.
But
and also, to be fair to Graham and 100 Thieves, the clock had just struck 12 and Rain realised he was never an IGL.
No comment on that, guys.
and we've talked about Valve, but there have been a bunch of other non-Chinese teams that attended this event as well, including NIP, MIBR, Luminosity.
Hey, I'll say this. The good thing about tournaments in China, there's no punchline coming, by the way. Everyone got nervous there. The good thing about tournaments in China is that they don't give a fuck about the Russian stuff, and the Russian teams get to go and compete without any issue.
Sure.
I feel like we're not really talking about that a lot right now. Like the conflict has dragged on for so long, and esports hasn't really recalibrated to the point where it's like it's very hard for them. But by the way, best players in the world are Russian, right? So we've got this problem where we've got every event that is in America, certainly, Canada, certainly, Scandinavian country, certainly, France, but not if it's the EWC, because wink, wink reasons, Macron. If you hold tournaments in these parts of the world, there's like almost always there's some issue with the Russians. Almost always. Like one player doesn't get one, or they can't make it, or a team just can't get the paperwork through because it gets referred for further evidence, and they have to skip a tournament, and we end up replacing a team entirely. In China, I will say this, the Russian guys, they just get to go, and it's not a problem, which is also sort of crazy when you think about it. But yeah, that's been good for the Russian guys.
Just before we jump into this whole topic, I think some interesting context, because I foreshadowed this a long time ago. So
How
back
long ago?
PGL Major Copenhagen 2024.
Okay, ancient history.
So 2 years. So I'm feeling pretty good about the about this one. So I met with Valve at that event.
Yeah, they were there. Yeah,
and one of the things I brought up with was like event standards for VRS. And I said, like, openly, I was like, we are going to see issues where like tournaments are going to start running on like shoestring budgets and they're not going to be good quality. Like, will Valve step in and set like an event minimum standard for events? Will they have any like ownership over what is defined as a tier 1, tier 2 event, et cetera, and Valve essentially just said, nope, you can vote with your feet. And just said, like, if you don't think an event is worth going to, then don't go to it, is what they said.
It still just blows my mind that they will not just at this point in time hire somebody to coordinate these circuits. It's just so outrageous.
Yeah. So there is no event minimum standards. Technically, you don't even have to use the current map pool to run an event that quantifies for VRS. You could run an event technically on CS Office in the map pool, and that would work. There's no rule against that. There's a lot of things you could do in an event, and I think we will see TOs get a lot more creative with what they can do.
By the way, there was even one, I don't know if you ever saw this. It's one thing I said many, many years ago on Twitter that I still don't get. I even think what you're saying about the idea of almost like an exhibition tournament is not only a good idea, it would almost be a universal good. So I'll give you the example. When the circuit begins again, how about when a new map gets added, you have an exhibition tournament just on that map and everyone plays it just for a week. And the idea is we all sort of opt in to play, because the problem with new maps is they don't get quick uptake, do they? People slowly work them in the pool or they make it their permaban. That would even be an interesting novelty event to, again, stand out from the other tier 2, tier 3 tournaments. I am actually in favour of things like that, as long as it's not done in a silly way. It's not even a bad idea, right? Every tournament doesn't have to be the same thing, but just on a lower scale.
Yep. I'd love to see an MR9.
CGS.
Yeah.
All sorts of shit like that. Yeah, you can do all kinds of fun things.
I fucking hate pistol rounds in MR12.
By the way, you could even go the other way. You can even go the other way as a gag. You could have a tournament that's just pistol rounds. You could do it. You could literally do anything. But what people genuinely don't do, and this is a problem in all of esports, is once a paradigm is set, those become like immutable barriers we're not allowed to break. It's like, says who? Valve's not. Remember, we're in the only major esport I'm aware of where the game dev doesn't even come in and wave their dick around and tell you have to do this. You can just do whatever you want with your tournament. It's not like in League where they just tell you it has to be this way or this format. It can only run at this time. Actually, Counter-Strike should be the Wild West in a good sense. You can just do whatever you want. It's the frontier, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is crazy to me that they would say that, because it's like, I wish Valve would just be a bit more selective with the licensing. It's the one right. I don't like, by the way, if there was a button to press where it's like game devs can't remove your right to run a tournament for their competitive video game, I'd press that button. Like, fuck them. Like 100%. Like
obvious examples being like Nintendo, etc.
Well, yeah.
Way too abusive.
I think when you run a tournament, I think it's transformative on some level, and I think the game kind of belongs to everyone. And
yes,
we all agree with that.
Yeah, and I think the games dev shouldn't stop you from doing that. That being said, we exist in a world where that has never been challenged in the courts. We wait upon that day, and therefore, I wish Valve would be more selective. I wish they would, man. Like, there's some crazy shit out there, and it's not the small guys, it's not the XPLs of the fucking world that are the problem. I mean, very often it's the big guys. They do crazy fucking shit. They do crazy things. They put the CS brand adjacent to things I can't believe, and Valve are just fine with it. They just let it happen. I mean, like, ESL have got away with fucking murder since the Saudi buyout. It's actually crazy. I don't mean literally. Shout out to Khashoggi one time. But they've got away with absolute murder. And Valve have never intervened, never had an opinion, never said anything. Same with the Esports World Cup. That's just the thing, is it? We're all just okay with that? I mean, I'm going to get into this after this goes out publicly. But I mean, like, there was a person had fucking heat stroke in already at the Esports World Cup. There's been people walking out, staff walking out, because they're enforcing this, like, you've got to have T-shirt sleeves down to here, and you've got to have your shorts, can't be short shorts. And it's a heat wave in France that's fucking killing people. Are you all right with your game, your brand being associated with this fucking maniacal bullshit? Well, Valve say, yeah, we don't want to have a stance on it. We don't want to have an opinion that might stop us selling our games in faraway countries with big markets. And I think it's fucked up. I wish they would. There should be, in Britain, we have this thing called the kite mark. And the kite mark is on pieces of equipment that have a reasonable expectation of safety. You put it on smoke alarms, you put it on pillows, you put it on blankets, you put it on electric fires. It means they're not going to erupt in flames and kill you, or they're not going to be defective. Again, the Chinese market doesn't know about these things. But the problem we've got is there's no kite mark for esports tournaments. It could just be whatever sponsor, whatever nonsense, run to whatever standard. By the way, you get the money for the prize whenever the fuck. Teams literally go under because they wait so long for prize money. It's diabolical, that Valve just in
and
the background.
Also, then you get that knock-on effect where then when the team goes under, all the players do their twit longer. And they didn't pay me all the money they didn't have any money, mate. Again, remember, these are supposed to be businesses for folks. I can't pay you what I don't have. But in the end, all that's remembered is that was a shady org. It's like maybe the inputs were broken to the system.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I see these tournaments come rolling around and they're just absolute dog shit from start to finish, and Valve are just like all you even have to do, you don't even have to get directly involved. You just have to say something generic, like, we have seen the issues that have gone. I mean, they would never do this for a Chinese event, obviously. The problem you've got with criticizing anything in China, as I'm sure everybody knows, is all it takes is one relative to be fucking related to the guy who works for the fucking government, and then Valve can never sell a video game on the version of Steam that has 60 fucking games as opposed to 6 million.
If you think that's an exaggeration, like Bobby Kotick got into a fight with China, a Chinese publisher, and so Blizzard Games just didn't exist in China for a while.
That was the final nail in the coffin of the Overwatch League. But anyway, not to old man ramble too much. I just think, like, I know what Graham is saying is true. I don't have those meetings with Valve anymore. I've just given up on that. It's like, I really like the guys that turn up to those events. It's like Brian, it's like Edo. They're OGs. They're like old, they're like old fucking school. They've been with CS since the beginning. But the problem is they're still on this mad scientist bullshit where they see the Counter-Strike ecosystem as a petri dish, and they're here looking at it through a microscope. And it's like, dude, it's people's lives. Like, it's a player's career, which I know you're meant to be sympathetic to. It's like like some guy might have founded a bedroom organization, like looked out, got like 5 really good players. This is what Valve always used to tell us. They wanted that. This was the dream, like the movie come alive. And then like they go to a tournament and they don't get paid. And then because they don't get paid, those players end up getting poached. And then that guy has to shut down his org. And then he fucks off and does, what are we doing? Like, I mean, you gotta care about the people that are using your license if you're gonna call it a license. Otherwise, just let anybody do anything all of the fucking time without talking to you. You can't be an absentee landlord and then turn up and say, "Why is the house a shithole?" It doesn't work like that.
So let's talk specifically about this event, because this one was a wild one. Lots of production mistakes. Amateurish delivery, but also power outages, fires. I understand it, possibly.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of like a power transformer had like caught light.
It was during the Big and Lin Vision game. There was a literal fire.
So yeah, what are some of the issues that you guys saw during this event? Because this was pretty bad, even by
We also
tier
missed the
2
obvious
esports
joke there
standards.
about Anders attending an event where the room was on fire, but whatever. Look, we'll edit that in so it sounds like I said it right after.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Well, even Anders got sick during that event. And listen, I'm not going to speak on his behalf, but I reckon he just took one look. And that was very early on in the tournament. I reckon he just took one look at the fucking madness and thought, fuck it, I'm having a day off till they sort this shit out. I think it was Yumi ended up standing in for him for a day or something. Right. So, first of all, let's just start with delays. When does a delay become acceptable? And when do you say, I don't care about your fucking delay? We're not playing the game now. It's over. That window is closed. You need to figure it the fuck out when we can play at a reasonable time. Because certainly the Bet Boom Nemesis game was played at like 4 a.m. local time. So let's start with that. Because I remember the Players Association doing a big fucking jerk off, spraying foam everywhere about how we're never going to play a competitive game after midnight. That's ungodly.
Unless I'm wrong on this, correct me if I'm wrong with it. I believe they even said that we've got, like, I know ESL was one of them. We've gotten them to agree that there'll never be a game local time that'll go past 12. The gag being, I think almost every ESL since then, and even up to now, including the major,
including this major,
still go past midnight. It was just one of those like political gestures almost. I don't think it was ever actually held to. But you're making a valid point. It's one thing if I just go a bit over. You can't start the game at like 3 a.m. So that seemed obviously absurd, doesn't it?
Yeah. It was certainly not scheduled. Like, it was meant to be scheduled in a way that it didn't make it go over. But then I think there was also like an additional part that said like any team that plays must have at least like 14 hours between the end of their previous game and their next game the next day or something. Like there was some extra part to it that like kind of gave them a bit of leeway to be like, oh, okay, well, you played the last game today, but you're also playing the last game tomorrow, so we can go a little bit later. And teams, they just go along with it.
Yeah. I mean, look, for me, again, it comes down to like just a basic, like part of it's welfare, but also part of it's like quality of the product, right? Let's actually care about like esports in the same way we would care about sports. I mean, I'm really trying to think of something in my lifetime where if it's gone beyond a certain point, a point of reasonableness, you just replay it at a later date. And, I remember the Super Bowl the Baltimore Ravens won against the 49ers. I can't remember what year it was, but that was when they had the power outage off the back of the halftime show. And they were sat around for hours. And obviously the Baltimore Ravens notoriously had an aging defense, all their adrenaline dumped. The 49ers came back in the game. It made a really compelling final. But we were still only talking about, what was that, like 2 hours, I want to say? And they still, it's the Super Bowl. It's like the biggest sporting event besides the World Cup final, right? So, and they still, and they got it done, and that's reasonable. I don't think it's reasonable for Bet Boom Nemesis to be being played at 4 fucking a.m. I don't think it's reasonable in any way, shape, or form. You just, I mean, like, and why is it played at that time? Well, we've got a schedule. We want to get all of these games finished by the end of day 1, so we know where we're at for day 2. No, fuck you. You're going to have to set up some extra stages. You're going to have to set up some extra desks, put some extra PCs in, and these guys are just going to have to play off broadcast. That's just how that's going to work. And they're going to do it in the morning after a good night's sleep. And by the way,
Richard, it was Swiss, so they can't set the matchups for the next stage.
Well,
I agree, that's stupid, but that is the truth.
All right, so everything's going to have to fucking go on.
By the way, I'll even add in there, though,
delayed.
Here's another detail in light of what you said, Graham, that makes it worse then. Because now it's not only that team, how am I supposed to prep for my next team? I have to stay up and wait for that to be drawn. Although I can't go to bed, wake up half an hour before. Oh, I'm playing a team twice as good as the one. I have to sit up also. So even the team not playing gets drawn into that mess too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and obviously, Graham, you're out there, right? Like, you're not like us old heads. We shout, about all the things we see. I can't imagine. Again, you've been in this situation where there's delays.
I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the tournament side and the team side. I delayed a whole tournament by a day once. That was fun.
Which
Duncan,
one was
you were
that?
there, I think.
The first blast.
Yeah, the first blast.
Yeah, all right.
Servers
Was that when they had
Yeah.
that mad like stage they were doing with the?
I mean, we did that stage for all the events, but yeah, no, the very first event, we were actually playing it backstage, and yeah, we set all 3 matches live. The pistol round starts, and then as soon as like the first kill goes in on one server, everything just fucking
There was
crashed.
so much just bogged in the server.
Yeah,
so
we
the joke is
fixed
the
it.
first
We got it
day
fixed.
was just a 4-hour fill.
Yeah,
We did a broadcast.
It was fucking awful.
Fill. It was like telling stories, dude. It was ridiculous. And the whole time, unironically, when I say a 4-hour fill, Monty, I don't mean like just guys keep fill for it. I mean as in like 10 more minutes, like, but for 4 hours. Like,
Yeah,
and
no, it was
luckily, the
bad.
one thing that saved them, believe it or not, was actually they'd quite cynically, since it was the first blast, hired like everyone who was talent in CS. So luckily, it's where there's that famous picture I did as a joke, where I actually said we were all meeting as an annual meeting of talent to agree to keep this one American dickhead commentator out of the scene. By the way, morons on Reddit believe that was real, like that comment, but again, never mind that. So the point is, luckily, there was like 20 talent, so we just like came in and out and tagged people in and out. So essentially, it actually almost worked for the fact that the event couldn't happen. But yeah, the first day did not at all, mate.
Yeah.
The gag there would be Graham. When you're on the TO side, you're like, guys, will you stop complaining publicly? We're all in this together. Can't we run the tournament? When you're the team, I mean, VRS is even better. It's like, that match counts for me as if I was in the best conditions. Like, what the fuck? Like, what's the universality to it? I know what you mean. It's why I made the point at the beginning of this episode. It's really easy to pick one perspective and then just be like, this is bad, that's good. Like, the problem is, it depends where you start the perspective point, doesn't it? It depends if you're the TO, if you're the team, if you're Valve, if you're the fucking player, if you're a big player, if you're a small player, if you're big talent, if you're the new talent. Like, that changes the whole, basically, like, how you evaluate the qualitative reasons why you do things.
Yeah. Well, it gets back to that word, right? Ecosystem. You know, if we're all in it together, there have to be reasonable solutions to these problems that come up. But in general, it always seems to go like there is a hierarchy of importance where it's like player feelings of up here, you know, with the fucking Pharaoh, and we're down there carrying the bricks. I do sympathize a lot with like tournament admins and people like that have to deal with this stuff and the messaging. And often as well, you know, it was like, look, there have been players, definitely will not name names, but people are going to know one of them immediately. There are players that would like turn up and they would like install like dog shit configs in their setup. The config would be like, you know, one of those get 1,000 FPS. It would be like out of date commands that aren't in the game anymore. And they'd play and there'd be a tech problem. Their game would crash. And they'd be like, these PCs fucking suck, man. These graphics cards fucking... It's you, dickhead. It was always you, dickhead.
I could count on multiple hands the amount of times that we fixed like low FPS issues by just deleting the player's config and telling them to I literally just install everything with console commands. I'll give you 10 minutes. Like, please feel free. Everything with console commands, no config. And then all of a sudden, like 300 FPS more. And it's just like, what is in your config? I'm not even going to look through the fucking thing, but it is bad.
And it's the TO that carries the can for that, and the admins that carry the can for that. And the players walk away like they're not dickheads, but they are dickheads. I mean, you got to understand, like the average player that, like, again, pick any player you are in love with, right? And imagine how good they are at the game, and then realize without help they struggle to plug a mouse in.
It was really bad at the start. At the start of CS:GO, it was really bad because players were using their 1.6 configs.
Yep.
Like, that's how bad it would be. Like, it would just be like a full 1.6 config with like CS:GO auto-exec added to the bottom of it, and you'd be like, what am I reading?
Yep.
And source configs as well, but the source config is a little bit closer to the global offensive config. But like, damn, yeah, like I saw some shit in the early days of CS:GO, and that was back in the days where we didn't have like practice rooms. So like we weren't checking configs like 2 days ahead of time. They weren't like getting set up. So like, oh man, it was bad back then. These days it's a little bit better because we have the practice rooms, we have like dedicated setup days, and you know, it's a lot like things do work a lot better. Like, we have definitely improved, but yeah, there's you're not wrong in saying that like there's probably like one pro at every event that just, you know, Just
I mean,
deleted a different
without,
world.
without making a big tangent, I'll even throw in one of the things where pros never help themselves is they'd never learned the lesson of the boy who cried wolf. They will complain just as vociferously on social media about like not having the absolute best monitor in the world versus like, you know, one that's like the previous model that's also really good. They'll make that sound just as bad as like there's 28 ping in the game. Like, they don't, because everything's like a 5-alarm fire. They also make a stupid thing where the fans go mental off everything. So again, there's a big difference between if the FPS is bad and they just don't have literally your monitor at home, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but they don't make any distinction, unfortunately. So they also, then they're our worst enemy in that regard.
Yeah. Now, I will say, that's not this. This XSE Pro League is something very special because, you know, we've already talked about the delays. What was causing the delays was like fundamental schoolboy errors on like how to run an event. Like put it this way. Anyone that back in the day ran their own LAN parties where your friends would bring their PCs to your house, you probably have a better understanding of solving the network problems than the people they used at this event. I think that's a reasonable thing to say because every time people were trying to join a server, they get randomly kicked. Every time a game would go on for a few rounds, it'd crash. Players would try and load their configs. That would cause a crash. And these are the good configs. Sometimes players were playing and then realizing their config hadn't initiated. These are all like very basic issues. We also had something that hasn't happened since the legendary India Gaming Carnival, IGC, which is Frozen said his desk was like 2 legs or something on one side were like longer than the legs on the other side, and it just had a permanent slant, and he had to play with that.
I mean, technically, that's actually a violation of the tournament regulations.
It is. Correct,
because not every player was provided the same hardware.
It's all got to be homogenous and all matching.
Problem is, you need someone to enforce rules, believe it or not. It's all well good just having them in the ether, but you know.
So it's interesting because obviously, in whose interest is it to have that event like unranked at that point? Arguably the teams who are like 0-2 in the Swiss, they'd be the ones pushing for it. Right?
They'd be loving that.
But FaZe went and finished top 4. For them, it's probably a beneficial event. So like, are they going to be the ones complaining about it? Like, it's a very weird position where like the people who need to complain about the event are not the ones who is in their interest to have it be complained about. So no one's ever going to do it. So everyone's
that was also always
just
a classic
going along with
problem in CS though, because what would always happen is whoever won one of these events would go, well, you know, they were dealing with hard circumstances. Give them a break. You know, please pay me the money. Please pay me the money. Exactly, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh yeah, the days where you didn't get paid prize money.
Here's my problem.
Yeah.
As usual, the thing that drives me crazy is just when there's inconsistencies, unfortunately. And so the reason I am pissed off when you bring these topics up though is if Valve really was like, you know what? I'm a deist. I set the machine running and then I step away and I don't interfere with it. But the problem is when VRS started to be applied in 2025, you just came in, waved your dick around and took CCT off VRS briefly. So you were willing to step in there and take people's points away and say this. And by the way, the crime they were trying to commit, banning obvious fucking match fixers and cheaters from playing in online games, you know, something I would consider a beneficial thing, but for whatever reason, Valve was against that. So
no, they weren't against it. It was about the way they did it. It was that they weren't basically all CCT had to do, and I think they do it now, is basically just declare publicly what the issue is and why. And if they'd followed that protocol, they could have done exactly what they did with no problem at all. So it was just like it was an administration error, essentially.
I think there's something similar going on right now, actually, with oh god, what? Oh shit, let me get this right.
It's either the European Pro League or United 21.
That's the thing. That's why it always breaks my brain because ESL Pro League is EPL. Yeah, that's it.
Yes,
but yeah, there's a team there. What do they call United 21?
No, United 21 is the other team, is the other tournament organizer who's also doing it.
Right, okay. So here we go. So yeah, basically there's been this thing where United 21 wanted to do the CCT ban, saying they're banning players and teams for supposed strange betting patterns according to their bookmaker partners. And they've said it's okay to do it because they're banned from EPL and CCT, but they're not banned from EPL and CCT because CCT especially want to conform to Valve's rules. And so, yeah, you've ended up with this big classic mess where these players are like literally trying to say, we're having our reputations impugned. And we want to compete and we want to get the VRS points. And United 21 are saying, we don't give a fuck. Our partners have told us you're match fixers, essentially. So go fuck yourself.
Yeah. And that is compliant, technically. Like the main aspect of it is it can't be like a shadow ban. Like it has to be publicly out there so it can be contested. And like the players aren't just sitting there going like, why aren't we being invited? So they are following the rules. And that's all CCT would have had to do in the initial phase of it anyway. But now they've just sort of gone, we're not really willing to go on record saying that we think you are have irregular betting patterns in your matches, and therefore we won't ban you.
People are terrified of litigation, and it's another it's another reason why ESL, particularly being a company with so many German roots, they're very similar. They're worried about litigation. They had this with cheats. Like they wouldn't even uphold back in the day like Equitas bans or ESL wire bans permanently. They always gave you the opportunity to write an apology email.
Yes.
Right. And
I've read a lot of those in my time.
And that was essentially their way of being like, hey, we'll give you a way back. And then therefore you can't sue us for like, ruining your career or whatever. Because
but famously, ESL did get sued a lot. Like they had to go to court many times for, team people basically saying, hey, you're defaming me by saying I cheated in this video game, and then they'd have to go on record and show.
Got even harder when that law about the right to disappear came in Europe, because any old post that had you listed as being banned or having done anything nefarious, that now suddenly has to be deleted if the subject requests it.
Yes.
So yeah, lots of interesting complexities there.
This message is sponsored by Raycon, and summer is now in full swing. I'm sure a lot of you are outside. And whether you're going to a backyard barbecue, running errands, or just enjoying the nice weather, what you can enjoy too is your Raycon Essential Open Earbuds. And these are great, especially if you're outside, say you're jogging, and you want to be able to hear cars potentially around you so that you don't get hit. These actually just wrap around the outside of your ears and sit on top of your ear canal instead of going inside it, so you still have plenty of situational awareness. I've used mine in the gym as well for jogging, and they stay on just fine, so you don't have to worry about them falling out. They also sound amazing and are very comfortable. They're also 20% off right now if you want to check them out. If you want to get a more standard earbud, you can also check out these, which are the essential everyday earbuds. These have features like noise cancellation with them, as well as awareness. So you can go ahead and turn that feature off if you want and still hear everything going on around you. Mine are black, as you can see right here, but they come in a variety of other colors as well if you want something a little bit quirkier or to stand out or to vibe with your style. These are all options for you. Raycon has over 3 million customers, and the sound quality is fantastic. The reason why they're able to sell to you so cheap is that they don't have brick and mortar stores, and they sell direct to consumer. If you don't happen to like them for whatever reason after you've tried them, they do have a 30-day guarantee, so there's no risk. Go ahead and try out Raycon. They have a variety of different styles, including those open earbuds or their essential everyday earbuds. The essential open earbuds are a great option for everyday listening. Go to buyraycon.com/horsemen open. That's horsemen, plural, MEN. So horsemen open to get 20% off. Thank you very much to Raycon for sponsoring our show. I love using these things on my travels. Brought them back with me to America from Korea, and they work great the whole time. I use them constantly. So thank you very much for sponsoring us. Go get some Raycons. You won't be disappointed.
Back to this event in China. Yes. Graham is right in the sense that he says a lot of what transpired would certainly have meant this would have lost its VRS ranking points had anyone complained. And I really thought at one point FaZe would complain. FaZe seemed to get the worst of it. There was that clip on Reddit of the coach, NKJ or whatever now, he lost his shit because his headset wasn't working during the timeout. And he was trying to talk to the players, and they were telling him you have to do it through the headphone. He's like, it's not working. And so he got very pissed off with the staff over that one. I think FaZe also, like I say, Frozen's desk was fucked up. There was a bunch of other stuff. But the problem that they had was, despite all of these issues, they kept winning. So
it's not in their interest to do it.
No. You just keep your head down and you kind of power through.
It's funny you mentioned
by the way,
because I've had worse conditions.
I'll give you an obvious reason also why you don't argue if it's going well and you're a bigger team. Because guess what? If there's actually a scenario, not every desk was busted. If you play your cards right and you're the lucky one that doesn't have it, then maybe they give the desk to the bad team. You know what I mean? Or the smaller team. So this is why unfortunately, you can't expect, unfortunately, the competitor themselves to always essentially police and expose what's wrong with the event. There needs to be someone else who does that, and they just play the games.
Now, one of the other hilarious things that happened was Magnajez, who was a very exciting up-and-coming player, had a great major. He logged in to his account, like you do as part of the usual, rigmarole. You come in, you log into the Steam while the admin's there, and blah blah blah, and his account got hijacked. It got stolen, and it's not like what happened at the major. I mean, what's depressing is a lot of what happened at this event. Many such cases actually happened at the major, and we just don't talk about it because ESL ran the best major of all time and the most watched major of all time. Don't check the sources on any of this because they're definitely not from Saudi. But anyway, this was actually hijacked. Apparently, Magnajez had to get in touch with Valve or whatever. And then when they were reviewing what happened, the PC he logged into had all this spyware preloaded, designed to capture Steam accounts specifically. And I saw some interesting posts on Reddit about this. One guy went, yeah, fuck this tournament. They all went to a secondhand PC store and bought secondhand PCs that were filled with viruses. And what? And people were like, is that real? No, but it might have happened. So there were all this fan fiction. This is just what happens if you don't wipe your fucking PC. When you're running a tournament, it's not just used for the tournament. It'll be used for other stuff. Famously, Gamers Paradise were using it to mine Bitcoin in the downtime. They use the PCs. They're an asset for their business. So, yeah, you're based as fuck, right? Yeah. So anyway, that's what they do. And so sometimes spyware, etc., can find its way onto the PCs. Yeah. What an admin is meant to do, of course, is do a full wipe and a check before it goes live. And Magnajez, unfortunately, was the victim of an admin having not done that. And it could have been a lot worse. I'll give Valve some credit. They, whenever a pro gets their account hacked at a tournament, they resolve it very, very quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, as they should.
I've been to boot camps where we've had keyloggers pre-installed on them, and the players have looked at the PC and they've been like, "This doesn't look like it's been wiped," and then they've gone through and they found all kinds of shit on them, and it's yeah.
By the way, the other thing about this event was, this is why this one's crazy. This just was a cavalcade of stupidity from top to bottom, from beginning to end. Normally, events have one or two of these. They had the entire bingo card and then a bonus bingo. Because, for example, normally, right, if you give an example of something that goes wrong, how about the stream goes wrong? Sometimes the matches are fine and the tournament's fine and the venue's fine, the big C's fine, but you just have issues with broadcast. The broadcast was also from top to bottom. Every problem you could have existed. I remember seeing some clips where it's Anders is hot mic'd for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Then he's doing a segment and they just cut it and it's dead stream. Or then you're in the game with everything you can think of on the bingo card was happening basically. It was nuts.
I mean, the broadcast was ridiculous. And another one of those where it's it was a Kick exclusive. Which I don't hate, by the way. I know it's fashionable to say Kick is funded by Stake and it is the Somalia of streaming platforms where anything goes and terrible things happen on Twitch. Terrible, who gives a fuck?
Also, what? Let's be real. What terrible things are
I
happening.
mean, there was some guy like bullied to death. Which is in the cause. That's pretty bad.
But here's the thing: people have live streamed mass killings on Twitch. Like you can't always control these things.
People forget, like Christchurch, the Christchurch shooting went out on several platforms, live Facebook and stuff. So I mean, look, it's one of those, right, where it's like I wish we still lived in a time where exclusive broadcast rights were on the table. Because then and by the way, every fan would feel that way if they were genuine about their criticisms about gambling.
No, your point you're making here is there are valid problems with Kick, and they can be here. But the problem here is I'll do the same rant, but a smaller version. That's just also the fan of the big tier 1 tournaments going, but I want it all on the one site I go to. It's like, Jesus, can we all make money and have an industry and competition?
Also,
and
is it so hard to click a Kick link?
No, but it is Monty, because remember, this actually happened for real.
Yep.
I still think one of the craziest examples of fan entitlement ever really was when they said that ESL couldn't have it on YouTube. By the way, an amazing platform, even back then was better, because you didn't have the PogChamp emote. That is not a troll. I'm not satirizing. That was a real problem as to why
now no one can have
YouTube
the PogChamp
and ESL. No, the joke is we can't have a PogChamp because that could be associated with someone who might be a conservative in North America. But we can just have people who've actually had people beheaded. They're actually like, citizen of the year in esports. That's the paradise we live in now. But anyway, yes, where is my PogChamp, Cindy?
Well, what's also hilarious is everybody now agrees that the tech on YouTube is better as it was at the time.
Oh yeah, infinitely better. Has been for like a decade.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like literally when we were putting it through, everyone was going, yeah, but I can't PogChamp. And the people still be like, some people going, yeah, but you can rewind live. PogChamp, I want PogChamp.
There are issues with the YouTube platform. Like discoverability is shit.
Sure.
Especially on mobile, discoverability is horrific. On your TV, it's horrific. Like Twitch is great for some things. I personally would prefer to be fair on YouTube, but
Twitch also is shit for discoverability, just in a different way.
I don't use Twitch if I can avoid it. Like the thing is, we're very privileged in Counter-Strike is that we have a website called HLTV, which not a shout out to them, but that's where most people will go and find their Counter-Strike streams. So they're very rarely going through like the discoverability phase. And if you had a YouTube exclusive Counter-Strike tournament, you would not get many non-endemic people watching that tournament because they just wouldn't find it in any other way. Whereas on Twitch, you will get like that natural kind of like, oh, I'll just click on this, whatever. But yeah, like platform exclusivity is really fucking good. Like forget about the platforms themselves. Like having exclusivity on certain platforms is good.
Also, even if you're Twitch's biggest stan, like you should want competition for Twitch to make them better.
Well,
exactly. Yeah.
Here you go, Monty. Here's what's hilarious. Back in the day, right, YouTube, when they bought the rights to an event, you could watch it in 4K. No problem. Kick had this rule for this tournament, and this is what they do when they buy the rights to tournaments, exclusive rights. And again, I have no issue with this. Like, you do what you have to do to grow your platform. You're buying the rights to an event to explicitly do that, right? But if you don't log in with your account, you can only watch it 480p, which, by the way, in 2026 is crazy. 480, yeah. Not even 720, bro.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So
that's like GOM TV.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, do you remember?
Well, I mean that's the kind of punishment that when I started at OGN in Korea in 2012, they would inflict upon people, which is that
it's like StarCraft.
You could only watch 480 if you were not subscribed. They made you pay money.
To watch.
That's even one of the reasons why esports history is actually fucked. Because back in the day when we all had smaller monitors and resolution sizes, like the joke we all know, like a CD rip, it was fine to watch the movie. In the modern day, you can't even get that rip on your massive TV and projector. It'll look like garbage. So the joke is there's even VODs in esports history that are just unviewable now, mate, because of the monitor you have. You'd have to actually get some old tech to make it. No, so the idea, like in the modern day, doing 40p is crazy. Like, people want 1080 on their phone, bro. Never mind on a PC or like a fucking projector or something. Yeah, of course. So that's nuts.
So again,
I actually think it's kind of base that Kick did that.
No, but like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, hey, you didn't like it when YouTube were giving you up to fucking 4K. And by the way, at a time when Twitch said they were giving you 4K, it didn't look like 4K. When YouTube did 4K, it was 4K, right? Like, you all hated that because of emotes and PogChamp and all, and here we are now. Fast forward once again, the fan being the ultimate rube and not knowing what's good for the industry, and here we are now. Well, now you got kick and 480 if you don't want to log into an account. You know, it kind of makes all that Facebook crying a little bit fucking pathetic in retrospect, doesn't it? But you know, that's where we're at. But anyway, I mean, the broadcast for this event was pretty bad. I mean, like you said, Anders got hot mic'd a ton. There was stuff where basically Anders would say, let's throw over to the stage and listen to the interview. The interview would be going out parallel with their audio. But Anders couldn't hear it, nor knew he was live. I mean, there was a lot of elementary stuff. And look, you're going to have problems when you get a bunch of production people that only speak fucking Mandarin and they're just throwing stuff out. And the one guy that you talk to says, right, we're going live to interview, throw to interview. And you do it. And then you just don't know whether you're muted, whether the interview's going out, what feed it is. It's really complicated. And unfortunately, much like the tournament itself, the broadcast was really amateurish and not a great look. I mean, obviously, people in China can do a lot fucking better than this. I mean, you know, we've seen them do better. You know, some of the best broadcasts we've had, obviously done by Chinese production crew. This was trash across the board. And, you know, as we'll get to at the end, I think the CEO went on and, you know, did the fucking apology where he tried to diminish what had actually happened. Like when he did the post-mortem, he was like, yes, there were a few delays early in the tournament. It's like, your games are happening at 4 a.m., bro. These are like the worst delays I've ever seen. You know, and they also in the apology said, we tested everything beforehand. Everyone does that. Everyone tests it beforehand. So, I mean...
Also, they clearly didn't.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. You can test everything beforehand, and it can work, and then things can go wrong on the day.
The fairies came in overnight, installed all keyloggers and viruses, which, like, give me a break. I know, exactly. By the way, that's what was so weird about that, Graham, is, well, if that's true, I believe you. You're just completely incompetent. You can
there you go, exactly.
I tested everything before that blast event. I did.
Yeah, that's what happened. But that is what I mean. Like, I genuinely think, like, you know, you can have like tested everything and it all be fucking, you know, legit, and then it goes wrong overnight, or there's things you can't necessarily plan for. Spoiler, always plan for them. You know what I mean? Look, I remember we all bang on Face It London Major for being absolutely dog shit, and their entire first day was just cancelled because of, I think they had 2 outages for internet service providers.
Didn't they have an issue with the headsets as well?
Yeah, I mean, dude, they had all sorts there. Also, like, that was the one where Valve patched the game and broke it, so footsteps on Inferno in particular,
that's right,
just wouldn't appear. So a guy could just run around the corner, you couldn't hear it, and he'd blow your fucking head off. So, and you know, obviously that was MSL and the North guys that got affected by that.
Well, he got kicked right after, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. They went out in groups because of they just played more broken games. So, you know, Valve fixed it mid-tournament. These things can happen. What this is a laundry list of just the basics, just utter basic entry-level incompetence that should all be fixed. And by the way, if you think it was just going against the non-Chinese teams, because this is another thing that, like, you go to a Chinese tournament, the non-Chinese team's PC is fucked and weird, but the Chinese team, it all works for them. Tyloo's PCs didn't even have Counter-Strike installed. They had to, before they sat down to play, and they were like, where's the game? And the admins were like, is it not on there?
You talk about dropping standards. There's certain things you just take for granted, you know, when you come to a tournament. Like, the game will be installed on the PC. No. Yeah. You've been living in a world of vaguely competent people.
Yeah. Like, they literally
I think something else was installed, though. I bet you like World of Warcraft installed.
Oh, actually, somebody did complain about that. Somebody said, I can't remember which team it was, but you're absolutely right. World of Warcraft was installed. No doubt. Again, I'm not making any stereotypes here. No stereotypes will be harmed in the course of this episode. But I mean, like gold farmers, China.
Jesus.
No, for real. Like,
Sure.
That's a big look. Bitcoin and WoW Gold, they're the two things that are constantly being farmed out there, so I'm just saying, like, that probably explains it. But yeah, somebody did say they sat down, there was no Counter-Strike, but there was a World of Warcraft launcher. It's
I respect
great.
it.
For a CS tournament. Yeah, absolutely perfect. So, and by the way, we now know all of this. We're pretty much at we are at the end at the time of recording this. There's no one's still not complaining. Like nobody, the VRS points are so important. We're just going to allow
even
this
the bedroom people
tournament.
you're talking about who had like the things they just basically were just sort of being like, please fix it. Even they haven't gone as vociferously as you would have at some of the, like I say, back in the day, I'm almost only joking when I say this. People back in the day who were big pros used to complain like that the wrong bottle of water was in the green, that sort of level of shit. And then people on this one just like, whatever, just don't say anything. We need points.
I mean, let's also be real. I mean, if these things had happened at a Blast event, I think Blast get absolutely lit the fuck up.
Yes.
Oh no, because Blast, you sign the document.
Oh, do you?
Oh yeah. The Blast Austin Major had loads of, actually weirdly, some of these issues that we're describing right now.
Right.
But you can't talk about it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, my bad.
What a paradise we live in. Now we're just actually not allowed to talk about it. And the joke is here, you actually could have talked about it in China, but not in America. Oh my God, I've done it, guys.
Yeah.
I've made America the bad guys after all. Whatever.
I do that every week on this show, so that's not really. But anyway, so I mean, like the fact that we're all tolerating this, and it's the VRS points are the most important thing. It's kind of crazy actually that like a tournament of this standard is just kind of like muddled through to the end. With all of these issues, and all that matters is as long as those VRS points are there, we're golden. We're not going to complain. And I'm sure a little bit of it is politics in both the esports sense and the global sense. You can't be too critical of China, but they get very upset about it. They do think if you're disrespectful, it matters. But I'll say this. Chinese fans were chewing the CEO up online. I mean, the Chinese fans were appalled. I think there was even a thread on Reddit from a Chinese fan saying something like, please don't fucking judge us on this. But it might have been a copy pasta based on the Brazilian major in Rio, so who fucking knows. But I mean, anyway, the point being, like, these players have just squirreled away those VRS points and like, we'll never talk about this again.
All right, guys. Four Horsemen, brought to you by Polymarket. We are going to be discussing some of the markets as a quick break for actual game stuff, which we don't typically do on this show. But before we get into actual game stuff and talking about the state of the Counter-Strike scene, we are going to talk about this. Will JL, who we've talked about on the show previously, appear as an analyst at an S-tier CS tournament in 2026? So this would be, a major IEM event, a Blast, a major itself. Will JL be back after his rather questionable performance as an analyst, gentlemen?
Put it this way, I don't have any direct inside info, but you hear murmurings in the industry. For example, I did hear from a bunch of people when he did the IEM Krakow event earlier this year, what they thought about it. And all I'll say is this. If this side was the 8-ball, all signs say no. So I would say for this one, no seems like a slam dunk. I know already the market shifted that way, but I would say it's very unlikely. Also, it's basically implied, as far as I can tell, even though people have gotten it wrong as to which team, he is trying to come back as a pro player. It's just at the moment, has he got a team? Seems like not yet. But I would imagine he's going to just end up on a team. And I also would say, without being able to read the minds of TOs, the TO he worked for, I'm almost certain will hire him again. And I don't think anyone else thought, let me get in on that. So I would say no feels like a safe one for this one.
Yeah, I mean,
as we're looking at this right now, 28% chance says yes.
I'm actually surprised it's that high though, but yeah, I would still say
kind of crazy.
It still means the traders say it will not happen. So I agree with them.
This is the beauty of the poly market system, and I can potentially influence the outcome, right? I could maybe, if I'm working a PGL event, suggest could we use GL? Because here's the thing. I wrote a whole article about it, so it's not something I'm pulling out my ass. I felt genuinely sorry for him because here's how it went. It was somebody wanted to seem clever when it came to a hiring thing. Let's get GL. Yeah, he's an ex-pro. He's a major winner, major MVP, no less. Surely that will translate to a desk. He also streams. He must be able to do this work, but it shows how little understanding of the craft they actually have. That being an analyst is a very unique skill set. And I can't blame GL for trying something new. It's definitely not his fault, right? So GL came in, and unfortunately, he was just hung out to dry, essentially. It's hard. It's a good desk segment is harder than you think to craft. And so I would say this, I hope he gets a shot at redemption. Now, if I was betting with my own money, then absolutely fucking no. I'm going to say no, like Duncan. I'm going to be hard and stoic. But put it this way, if for any reason he wanted to do one again, hit me up, and I would love to have that opportunity to work with you, because I know he's a lot better than how he came across at that event, and and with just a little bit of work and a little bit of help, he could actually be.
I hope that happens.
Interesting,
because I think he will break you.
I see. This is it. Listen, look, I've not met.
I've talked to the guy. All I'll tell you is that there's nothing going on there. Maybe. Here's the reason I feel sorry for him, because it's like it would be like getting angry at a fly coming into the room. The fly doesn't know what it's doing, mate. It doesn't know I exist. It doesn't know what annoying is. It's just being a fly. It's be dead in a day. But enough what, Gel.
All right. Well, with that,
right now we go on to the serious market, the important one.
The serious market, because this gets into actual.
That one was just supposed to be lighthearted, even, of course.
Yeah,
of course. Which is, will Astralis make a roster change before September?
This is such a good question.
Say there's 40% say there's a yes to this as of the time we're discussing this. So Astralis, obviously, legacy team, trying to get back into tip-top shape, not dominating anymore. But is the roster change before September? Because the clock is on 6 weeks, basically, before this happens. Is that realistic?
I don't know. This is a very tough one. This is one of the more interesting markets there right now. A lot of them are very cut and dry. You've got stuff like, will Falcons make a roster change? They've just won a major. I think we're good on that one, right? This is really interesting, because there were already rumors that Hooksy was out. It was meant to be Rugger, the coach, went, and Hooksy was following him out of the door after an unsatisfactory major. And not only an unsatisfactory major, but there was all that drama with the Ty Lue fans, and then also as well there was drama about apparently he'd upset some of the players because he'd been a bit too vocal and mean in some of the feedback he gave. And he's dealing with a younger international lineup. So if Hooksy is safe, then theoretically we don't know where you would go in terms of a roster move, because ultimately the talent they've got on the roster is meant to be the direction they wanted to go in. Now, that being said, Ryu did not have a good major and isn't looking like the finished article. People blamed Astralis' underperformance on Hooksy because they barely got any T rounds. It was one of the worst T side. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Duncan is the historian. I think it might have been the worst T side performance from any team at a modern major in terms of rounds won to rounds played or whatever. It's certainly up there as being terrible. So people blamed him. He's the IGL. You're meant to get me the T sides. But ultimately, I don't think he was helped by some players massively underperforming. So I am going to lean on this one, and I am going to say yes. You've got the prospect of a new IGL dangling. That could be a realistic move. And you've also got the prospect of Ryu getting cut. So, I mean, right now, no is ahead. I like the yes as the underdog. I'd put my chips there.
Yeah, I actually also like this market because I actually do think, especially the time frame, is what makes it so close on both ends.
Yeah.
So I think there's actually decent value in both regards. But I would also opt like Richard. First of all, I actually do think Huxley's not even necessarily the first one. I think the Ryu guy will just be gone. I think he's someone they gave a chance to. People don't know he was actually in that Monty team. He was like one of their stars before they had this recent rise up. So what's bizarre is he was someone where I understand why they gave him a go, but in his team, in their team, bear in mind he's just a guy from Lithuania that came out of tier 2. He's not like a tenured player that was great once, or it's not a team that is all based around his country. Or remember, they're an international team. They can go with anyone that's speaking English. They've also got an experienced IGL. So I think it's just obvious that guy gets cut, and I could actually see it being within that time frame. Also, yes, even though actually I thought that was kind of out of left field, the idea that Kid Huxley, I just think he's doing a decent job in that team. If that was real, that there was drama, and it certainly seemed like there was some ill feelings, there's also that iron in the fire too that could happen. So I actually think the time frame's the hard part, because here's the thing: if you said in the season will it happen, I'm certain it will, but will it happen within those like 6 weeks or so? That's the harder part. But I'm still up towards yes. I do think that. I also think they're going to be in a hard position.
They make it before they try and accumulate more VRS points for the next major, right? Like, wouldn't they make?
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't have to have all 5 players. The problem with that is that gets complicated money. So there's no point getting into that part, unfortunately.
That's true. Only if they're making multiple roster changes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. We'll see if Astralis makes that roster change. And now we're going to go back to our VRS discussion.
So something that's interesting with this that I remembered actually like a few days ago was sort of like mentally preparing for the show. So what I said earlier about Valve, where, you know, there's no minimum standards for these events, right? Even back in like 2015, and I remember one specific team was very like on the money with this every single time. They would have a rider, like a how do you describe a rider to someone who doesn't know what a rider is? You're probably better than this at me.
A part of the contract for things that you require to be done to participate.
Exactly. Yeah. So the teams would come to us with a rider and say, you know, for us to accept the invite to your event, you must provide this, this, and this, and this, and this. These are the penalties. If not, or we won't accept. But you, as a team, you do not have the power to do that in the current system because everything has to be uniform. Because and it, by all means, it should be to some degree. You know, because Valve has said that every team has to be treated exactly equally in every single way. The teams have no negotiation point for like their attendance, which to some degree might be okay, but it also puts all the power for the tournament operator, because Valve also doesn't have any requirements, minimum standard requirements for like an event to be like confirmed as a VRS event. That's why events like this can happen. Like, let's say we go back to 2015, I get Virtus.pro's rider that says like, you know, you must provide this, you know, the certain standard of monitor must be this, you know, we must have practice rooms available by this time, you know, prior to an event, whatever. And then if the penalty for that is that if this doesn't happen, we are removed from the tournament, removed from the, you know, without any VRS penalty, we're not scheduled into any matches, then fuck it, teams would complain.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, the power would shift so drastically towards the teams. But the thing is that because it all has to be equal, they can't do that. So it has to come from Valve.
Yeah.
And like right now, like,
there are also,
you know, crazy.
Yeah, go ahead. As a former, you know, event organizer / rules enthusiast myself / rules writer, when I hear that, I also immediately think about how this could be abused, right? And, you know,
Absolutely.
if there is a scheme, let's pretend there's a scheme between the teams and a specific event TO. Well, you bring out these teams, they give you the rider, and then you don't meet the standards of that rider. But then for VRS, that means that maybe good teams that would have been traveling internationally don't compete. And now the Chinese or whatever Australian teams, you know, get more VRS points as a result because they get higher results in the tournament than they might otherwise get, right? There's a million ways to maybe like game this system too, or abuse it.
Yeah, it could definitely be abused. I think the main aspect I want is like, I think there should be like a minimum set of standards for an event that Valve should enforce. And you're right in saying that, like, you know, let's say like one tiny thing was missed, you know, there'd be a team probably a German team, let's be honest, that would be like, actually, no, this one was not followed. The whole tournament must be unranked. You know, like you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like go back to
the old default hunters, mate. You know
Exactly. Sadly, I actually forget the name, but I believe there was even like 2 years ago or something. There was actually once a small tournament, like one of these ones that like a Russian team went to and just didn't agree to play. Maybe it was even like a Sky Esports.
It was the India event. It was the Sky Esports.
Yeah, one of those.
Exactly.
Someone went there and just didn't play. It's a rare case of it happening.
Was it Bet Boom? I think it might have been Bet Boom. Yeah. And that should be allowed to some degree, I think. But you're right in saying, like, you know, you might have 15 teams who are like, no, it's fine, whatever. Like, it's not impacting it's not having a direct consequence on the event. But one team who's like gone 0-2 and Swiss be like, nah, I'm not having any of that. So like, there has to be a certain point where like, after a certain point, all standards are accepted. But like, you're right in saying that, like, technically, you know, 15 teams could turn up to an event, one team complains, and the whole thing gets cancelled. Everyone's wasted all their money. So like, you're right in saying it could be
one
abused,
team underperforms
and
loses points and then complains to invalidate the results, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's definitely a certain level of abuse. Like, it would have to be well thought out in like how it was applied, and Valve would have to be involved, which is the crux of the issue here. Is the Valve would have to be involved and actively take part. But yeah, I still feel like there's a better place than where we're at now, which is just like, you know, you're still gambling. So, but you know, you 100% know that everything's going to count against you if it doesn't go your way. So I feel like there's at least somewhere in the middle where like there's like a reasonable ground of like accepted standards that have to be met, you know, in order to gain a tournament license, in order to operate a tournament that go beyond what currently exists.
Like we said, you know, because of the way the system works based on prize money, people will cut corners potentially on tournament equipment in order to achieve more teams attending and therefore higher viewership, right?
Well, that was also what we said when we met with Valve. Was like, you know, will you put limits on, you know, prize money for tier 2 tournaments? You know, will you set like, you know, do tournament organizers have to like run X amount of events before they can be approved to run a higher tier event, so that we can ensure quality, ensure new tournament organizers come in, you know, at a level that they're capable of, etc.
And stop the fly-by-night guy come in and put the prize pool too much. I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, so like we sort of like, we had an idea. This was very early on in the whole thing. You know, at that point, Valve hadn't announced anything. All they'd said was things are going to change at the start, you know, 1st of January 2025. Nothing had been released at that point. So we were sort of trying to, one, talk to them to understand what their plans were, and two, you know, ask, you know, try and see if there's anything that, you know, we could also influence. And yeah, ultimately nothing nothing happened. So yeah, I think the only thing that got added was the factoring for LAN being added, so that like online tournaments didn't count as much as LAN tournaments. But that's the way they added it was kind of broken. So I don't think anything actually came out of that meeting, unfortunately.
I wish Valve could just make their intentions clear to everyone. Like, you know, if they would just say, when like we are trying to create a framework that enables us to be hands off with esports, I would have so much more respect, and I think that would have appropriately managed everyone's expectations. The issue I have with Valve currently is things will go to shit in esports to the point where all of us complaining about it. Actually, no one is satisfied with it. Not the fans, not the pundit class, not the team managers, the staff, on some level, not even the players. And then 2 years after we've hit that critical mass, Valve will change it all in a really definitive way that sort of resets the scene. And then we have to deal with that new reality. And it's like that's not conducive to what we're trying to do or what we're trying to build. You know, it really isn't. I mean, like, it was good that we got out of again, this is my opinion from my perspective. It's good that we got out of the franchise era of Counter-Strike, because it was creating such a disparity with the haves and the have-nots, even to the point where the qualifiers were risible and pathetic. You couldn't break in to the teams that happened to have $3 million spare at that moment in time. They finally said, no more secret business agreements, guys. okay, can we just have an open business agreement? Cool, wicked. And then we've just ended up with the same shit publicly. And it not like the money is now just an appearance fee instead of a franchise share. It's like so crazy. Like we would, so it's like, do we need to wait? It would be now on my timetable, like another year before you realize this is bad and you're going to change it. Or maybe you don't give a fuck. And in which case, like, do tell us, do let us know. I would like to know Valve don't care. That would help me out a bunch if it's actually official. If you really want to be hands off of esports, let us know, and then we can roll up our sleeves and get into the sandpit and fight. Because the problem you've got is no matter what you build or what you say or what rule you change, Valve can come along tomorrow and just switch it up. And if they're not going to do that, then fine. There are some things worth fighting for in Counter-Strike. But if Valve are just going to lurk, then what is the point?
I actually borderline do think that we're getting to that stage now with Counter-Strike. I had a cursory look of like the updates to like the GitHubs, like the rules one and the rankings one. They haven't updated the ranking in like 11 months, like the way it works. And there's a lot of things that needs to be updated. And there's a lot of smart people who have gone through and done the math. And even on the actual like GitHub, you can go in and see like people suggesting things to actually improve the ranking or to, in some cases, just straight up fix it. Like,
give us the examples.
Fix bugs. So things like the LAN wins.
Let's talk about how VRS could be improved and ideas that have been had.
So question here, are you talking about like VRS as in like the ranking system, or are you talking about like the overall like overarching like ecosystem in terms of like how the tournament system works, like, because they are two separate things that kind of work together, right? I think from the ranking perspective, like I think there's a number of things that definitely need to be fixed in order to make the ranking. I mean, the ranking to some degree works. The best teams are at the top for the most part, but it's very easy to move up very quickly with like a very not lucky set of results, but like, one result can put you like, where is it? Like, I think, I don't want to say it like this, like in a bad way, but I think like 9Z are ranked 4 right now. No, they're ranked 6 because they lost today, I think. Okay. Or did they win? I don't know. But like 9Z, I think,
it is high based off of opponents as well, but because the underlying metric is still the prize pool, it's different than like an ELO system that would just be purely based off of important wins and losses.
Yeah. And the thing is,
and I'm not saying that's the ideal way to do it either, because obviously at that point, if you have a high enough ELO, you like stop attending events so that people can't take it from you. Like there's other gamesmanship that happens in those situations, right? You may not play as many events, but maybe there's a middle road there.
Yeah. Like some of the issues result from the prize money aspect, which is like all the core parts of the ranking, except for the LAN wins aspect, is multiplied by the event weight modifier, which is purely prize money based. So, which is not the fundamental, standout thing that makes an event.
Money doesn't equal prestige.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you can have this event
or competitive level.
Anyone can run a $1 million event. That doesn't mean that a $1 million event is equal to another $1 million event, right? Yeah. So that is one thing, which then inflates teams because they earn the prize money, which does count towards their value in the ranking. The other aspect is something called opponent network, which is basically just a list of the teams that the team has beaten. And then the more teams they've beaten, the higher their network is. And that's a very simple way to put it. And I will get corrected in that in the comments by a few people. But and the thing is, like, if you look at the best teams in the world, they have a really bad network because they don't play that many games, right? Whereas like the best teams in the world in the opponent network are the tier 2 online grinders. It's all the Russian CCT teams basically at the top of that. And they are not the best teams in the world. So like immediately, like I remember, I think it was Mischief Finn. I think he did a version of the ranking which just completely removed the opponent network, and it basically changed almost nothing. Like because the teams at the very top of the ranking barely use it because they don't play that many teams. It just basically didn't change the whole ranking, which is kind of pointless, right? It's just there for the sake of it being there. So there's that. There's then like a LAN win is worth the same if it's in freaking shit event in, 5K event in wherever, and the major final is worth the same, best of 5 versus a BO1 in nowhere. Like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right. So like the fact that LAN wins are just like a binary 1 and 0, no matter the context of the event at all, is just crazy. So like there are so many things that could like easily be just like slightly modified. And I encourage people who do have a understanding of technical coding to go and look at the GitHub, and you can see that there are like people who have actually written like pretty well thought out posts about how to actually modify the VRS. They've even done the code changes themselves so that Valve could just add it, which is what they told us to do. Like they literally still says in the bottom, updating and improving the model. The model we're shipping today is the one we will use for the next major. This was written in 2024 or 2023. We're going to keep experimenting. They haven't, and we think you should too. After we ship the code and the data in the repository, they have shipped the code, which we can all see. The data is so outdated that you cannot use it anymore because it doesn't physically work with the current code. So somebody has got in and recreated the data on the more recent model, so you actually can do that. That was done by the community, not by Valve. Okay. Feel free to tinker and make something new, which people have, and Valve have not acknowledged it. As long as your model does well and fits our goals, we'd be happy to consider it. So people who have done the changes to the model have even shown like it follows the expected versus observed win rate. It follows your model. Like this improves the ranking, and they haven't done it. So wow. That's like the absentee child. But then, I think there's also like they haven't updated the major rulebook in 11 months. So it still has the results from, Austin are still in there. So it's like the results for Austin that we're going to determine the slots for Budapest are still there, despite the fact that we're now 2 majors on from that and we're preparing for Singapore. Like technically the last major had the wrong slots because the rulebook says otherwise, but everyone just acknowledged that Valve just didn't update it and we should use the new ones. And ESL clearly confirmed with Valve that was the case, but then why didn't Valve just update it? Like we are just left to our own devices now. It's been 7 months since the last update there as well. Like we've basically been the whole of 2026 just completely free by ourselves. Like Valve haven't added any tournament exceptions despite the fact that there has been exceptions that TOs have assured us Valve have approved, but Valve have not publicly declared have been approved. So we're just supposed to take like the tournament organizers like, yeah, no, it's been approved. Valve have approved it. It's like, okay, could I get that like in writing? It's like, no. But Valve have approved it. Okay, great, thanks. Right, that's fantastic. The most notable one of those was a Blast one where they changed the slot distribution to their Rivals event after the deadline had passed. NRG expecting to get an invite to Blast Rivals declined the Philadelphia 50K event, which clashed because they're like, well, we're the number 1 North American team. We're going to get the North American wildcard invite to Blast Rivals. And then they didn't get the invite to Blast Rivals. A few days ticked by. They're like, what's going on here? And Blast are like, oh no, they're global slots now. We changed it. And their deadline was after they changed it after the deadline. Valve have told Blast that's fine, but haven't publicly declared that that's fine. It's not listed anywhere publicly that that's been the case. There's no updates to the exceptions. So Energy are just kind of twiddling their thumbs going, what the fuck's going on? In the end, they have to play the open qualifier for Philadelphia because they have no other option. And it's just like, man, like Valve could have solved this really easily with an exception, just like publicly come out and say like they'd approved this. But yeah, as it stands, I think Energy got screwed personally.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, this is, it's probably the shape of things to come, right? Because, like you say, I'm kind of sensing that, Valve have been a little bit more hands-off recently. I also feel some of the standards that would have been enforced, even like a few years ago, probably not going to be enforced, like, moving forwards. And look, I mean, we can have the whole conversation about, the Saudis and it's a dark day for Counter-Strike. I mean, like, it seems to be that right now we're locked into this, like, delusional belief that as long as the numbers keep going up, everything's fine. As long as the viewership keeps going up, which it is, everything's fine. We're doing really well in Counter-Strike as an esport while other ones aren't. because big number good, and any of the context around that doesn't matter. Why that's happening, who knows? Who cares? It's all good. But tournament standards are getting appreciably worse. Yeah. But the numbers going up, so it's good. We just had a major where 2 players got mass spam reported in the middle of it, and it affected the integrity outcomes of games. Yeah, it doesn't matter though, doesn't it? Look, Magix has got a tomato jar now, so we're doing really well, guys. So yeah, I really, I felt kind of weird after the major, but also like having watched like just what passes for a CS tournament these days, it really is kind of like, really, is this like where we're at? And yeah, I don't know. I've felt a little bit weird and despondent since the major, not just because of the Saudi stuff, but just because of a bunch of stuff. Like, I mean, I couldn't even get motivated to watch this XSE thing. Like I say, I was watching it with a hangover today, and I just saw James Banks was in a Jason Voorhees mask or something. I'm going back to bed. Like, fuck this. So yeah, we're in a weird spot, guys, and Valve need to clarify what they want to do.
Yeah,
well, there you go. I think this has been super interesting. VRS update.
It always is when Graham turns up.
Uh,
He's the one guy who knows what he's talking about when it comes to VRS.
Exactly.
I've got a broadly good knowledge. I'm definitely these days, like there are people, especially on the ranking side, the code side, who massively can crush me on that.
Just
side
in
of
case
things.
people are still unaware, you follow the following 2 Twitter accounts: Jesper Unkund
Yes.
222 or whatever, and then
Yes.
Mischief CS2. These 2 people
Yeah.
basically live to do the VRS things all the time.
Yeah, follow
They're
those 2
all
guys for the
over that.
rankings. Yeah,
Yes,
100%.
they're all over it.
I have them
But
blocked.
they don't have the context of how it affects the teams and the TOs. So like I can provide like the fluff, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if you want like in detail, like in depth stuff, follow those 2. They're great.
I'll block them like I did. Your choice. I don't even know why, but they're probably weirdos or something.
They probably just said some troll shit back
Yeah.
with no fans 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like the usual way in it.
But obviously now, well, all of my focus is on the EWC, which of course is rolling around. They've gone out of the frying pan into the fire, quite literally.
So here's the thing, Richard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've actually prepared yourself. One thing I'm pretty good at as the historian is I'm pretty good at also like trajectorying, like extending it out and seeing it. Your punishment hasn't been severe enough.
Oh, great.
Richard, you do realize your true punishment is when Falcons wins the CS EWC.
Oh, of course they will.
That's the real nightmare fuel, bro. Then they actually legit get to say they won it and put another star. They'll put as many stars as they fucking want on that jersey, bro.
No, I mean,
that's the real nightmare fuel for you.
I mean, put it this way: I actually expect them to. I actually expect them to win that and then not win another tournament.
Yeah, there you go. That would be good. That would be bad.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for Nico to get Saudi citizenship, so then he can compete for the Esports Nations Cup.
God, that's happening as well. Also,
By the
like
way, that's even an idea you probably shouldn't give them. At this point, bear in mind the state is the one that owns the tournament and the team.
We'd like to welcome Kerrigan as the newest Saudi citizen.
They could just grant the citizenship. In fact, by the way, I wonder why they even haven't thought of that for just like the Russian players. Like, just make them not be Russian anymore, mate. Then you get on that whole problem. But anyway, hopefully they don't watch this episode. They definitely are, by the way. This is all being charted.
I've already said the rumors are out there that they've been offered passports. So whatever. Make of that what you will.
It's not remotely surprising.
No,
of course not.
So, but yeah, so another joyful stroll through the world of Counter-Strike.
Hey, for all the VRS's flaws, I think the system is substantially better
really
than the old one.
good for a narrative perspective because I'll say this as a broadcaster, it does add stakes to games that would ordinarily have none. One of the things that was very
the concept is great.
Yeah, one of the things that was very exciting towards the end of the season was this mad scramble to see who was going to get in. And FaZe did it in a slightly dishonorable way, but more honorable than Team Liquid, who just changed region. But it added unbelievable stakes to games that people wouldn't ordinarily watch. I mean, I love Draculan. They're kind of like, they operate in Romania. I spend a lot of time in Bucharest with PGL, where the head offices are. I'm hoping to get myself to a Draculan. I think they're doing great work. And you look at all of a sudden the narratives were like, holy shit, like this is happening at Draculan, this is important, these teams have gone here to bolster their VRS points, and people were like actually tuning in and wanting to see what happened. And obviously what happened with FaZe, it coming down to a best of 3. I can't remember the name of the event they were at, but it was the Czech
HLC.
HLC. Oh no, it was Belgrade, Serbia. Correct. Don't want to get that mixed up. Don't get into the Balkan stuff. Never get into the Balkan stuff. So anyway, I mean, like, people. We were literally at a tournament that FaZe had dirtied us at PGL by saying
they skipped out.
Yeah, they skipped out in the first 2 days and said, we'll just do a run back. And we ordinarily, like I work for PGL. PGL ordinarily would have replaced them, I think. But it was just too short notice. So there was this stipulation that FaZe basically got to fuck over a business partner. And then they came and they immediately lost. They flew in on private jet to lose the 1 best of 3 to compete. There would be no run back. But I mean, we were, from a broadcast perspective, it was sick. We were like doing updates from a separate tournament, talking about what it did to the VRS rankings and who was going to get there. The VRS points, I mean, it's something we've incorporated into PGL's graphics. That if it's important and it's like ahead of a major or ahead of another, and it might affect invites for another tournament, we say, you think this game isn't important, bro, I'll tell you, if this team win, they're going to leapfrog this team and they're going to get to go to Singapore or whatever it might be. So it's a boon for storytelling. It's just a bit of a mess for some of the other stuff, that's all. But
my problem is this. I won't make a big thing. I've said it on a million different shows. Basically, for almost every single thing I care about, if I made a checklist of the 10 most important things in a season, VRS nails literally 9 out of 10 of them almost flawlessly. And it's only the last one. And here's why. Until it can potentially be improved, I'm willing to accept that, is because the people who get screwed over are actually the people, I'm sorry, I have to have a triage that I care the least about. It's like teams that are somewhat irrelevant. It's tournaments that don't really matter that much. It's things like, which team gets the last slot at the major, mate? Is it the 49th best team or the 50th? None of them are going to the finals anyway. Who gives a shit? The difference in the old system was literally the best team of all time who was not qualified to the major. You had a million different, but you even had principally, people complain about things now with the VRS system. You could argue before, even though no one would do this, actually the rest of the season didn't even matter. Like, as me and Maui made the point on talk shows at the beginning of CS2, it had actually become, because of the sticker money and the way the capsules work and the way the RMR works, that actually the most important match of the entire year, technically in terms of finances, was just qualifying through the RMR. Not even the fucking major itself in the playoffs. Like, that was an absurd scenario where you have a million holes and flaws in the system. So the reason I say all this is, even though we've gone through a lot of the problems in this episode, that was almost the point of the episode, though. Like, we could do a totally separate episode where we could just talk about all the good things in VRS, too.
I'm glad we've got it.
It also generally did a very good job organising the 3 stages, doing some of the seeding things. Again, even when I told you things that seemed like mistakes, like, but Spirit is seeded wrong, Thorin, because the cut-off meant that the later events that they had that they won and made the finals of didn't get counted. So if you know that, it actually did a pretty good job of most of that stuff. And again, I actually find in general, I like the way it runs.
Yeah. Well, also, you just have to compare it to the RMR system where you had to have a bunch of these RMR events instead of tentpole CS events with real brands like IEM or Blast or PGL behind them, right? These were basically weird qualifiers, and I would rather have a kind of well-branded event that is part of the VRS circuit than just have random one-off RMRs. And also, RMRs were the worst fucking name of all time, and the system was so confusing.
They weren't even what they said they were. Oh God, they were terrible. I'm glad they're gone. I'll never mourn the passing of the RMR and all the dog shit that it brought with it. So I mean, like, look, I'm glad. I'm like Duncan. Like, VRS for me is like, it's not even the lesser of two evils. It's just a much better system than anything we've ever had. It's reminiscent of when StarCraft moved to WCS, which I know is obviously a controversial thing to say because
also I'm someone who understandably is very critical of people like Valve and TOS. I think this is a rare example where I actually think Valve, I would have thought they would never even have the competence to put a system like that. I think they did a pretty good job for people who are the absentee parents. I think this is kind of like low-key based as a system.
Yeah, I think
I think it was designed for them to be absentee.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's like
which is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah,
it's a feature, 100%.
It's like they've installed the ring cam and we're going out partying. But listen, if there's a problem with the crib with the baby in it, we can run back anytime, and we'll totally do that. See you never. But yeah, I agree. I think it was set up to be that way. A framework, I think what they wanted was a foolproof framework that would remove any arguing or fighting or bullshit. There would always be a definitive answer. This team goes to the tournament. This is the standard a tournament has to be held to. This is how you get points. This is how much prize money has to be there. And it was like, they just, unfortunately, like in a lot of things Valve do, they didn't see some of the angles that other people in the community did. Because remember, look, I know Valve are a super smart company and they employ some of the smartest people in their fields. And sometimes they literally employ people who were the smartest in other fields because they're interested about how that field might engage with another field. The people at Valve are all highly competent, highly intelligent, highly qualified. But whenever you create a system, you're going up against the internet, which is weaponized mass autism. And they will always see things you didn't, and they will come up with it faster. As a resource, the internet is incredible. If you ever want to find a typo in an article, just post it online. It's there in seconds. It's faster than a spell checker because of that weaponized mass autism, which is, I say it with love and reverence. And unfortunately, that mass autism looked at the things in the VRS and come up with better ideas, and Valve hate it when you tell them they missed an angle, or they hate it when you come up with a solution for a problem they didn't foresee. They then have to go back to the drawing board and come up with a counter solution that is better than your solution. And very often what they always do is they don't even approach the problem in the same way you're looking at it. Like, for example, banana's too wide. Why don't you just shorten the width of banana? No. We're going to look at skyboxes. We're going to look at canopies. We're going to increase volumetric smokes, or how wide fucking, like Molotovs. They will never engage with a community-solved problem in good faith.
Plus, there's also the problem that even at this is why esports is... what's funny is I've made this point on the show a million times. The more I actually get to know about the people suffering some of the problems in esports, and I sympathy I have for them, because half the time they're just trying to fuck someone else using a loophole, or they're just being greedy or selfish or entitled themselves. So I'll give you an example. I actually think a lot of what Valve, again, it's actually more also, I'll just say politically, a bit like what Graham said earlier, they don't tend to do a rule like, this is the stop ESL monopoly rule. They'll just go, what I'll do is I'll set a bunch of generalized terms that would just stop anyone from doing them. What they don't know is, I guarantee you the second they start to do that, ESL has a fucking emergency meeting where they all sit around a whiteboard like a scene of fucking Mad Men and come up with the new loophole. And so I always say, you know what? You have to give this to them, Richard.
Yeah.
You might not like what they did with the whole PGL thing with the prize money club share, or even the other one where, because you're not allowed anymore to say you can't attend their event and my event. Well, first of all, I've made it so the club share is enormous for the team. And I'm just going to make it so that, what do you know? What a coincidence. I accidentally made my circuit so that the event that ends for you in central Russia, actually the next tournament's in fucking South America. And it's physically impossible to get there in time. And if you don't get there in time, if I don't give you a special dispensation, wink, wink, do the other things I say, then you just lose, I don't know, some of your prize money. The whole thing that you're there for. Again, Valve could never sit back and realize what dickhead would game the system like that. Like, I almost have like a level of, in the chutzpah sort of way, I almost admire the scammery of it all. Like, it's like, that's why we're all assholes in esports. Like, anything that would vaguely work, it's like, how do we get the angle on this?
I've said it like a million times. Like, it's great that, like, if you can look at something detached from all moral and ethical concerns, you can just go, well, that was a really good fucking idea. It was ruthless as fuck, but it was a really good idea. It was really smart.
Mate, in the movie, I'd low-key be fucking with Ralph Fiennes. He's on some Lex Luthor shit. That sort of vibe with it. Just problem is in real life, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's the problem, So yeah, unfortunately, that's another thing. I think Valve have been too lenient with, what I consider bad faith actors for the space. ESL, we wouldn't have a scene without them. It would be really rough if ESL didn't exist. If we got what we secretly wish for the Saudis to pull out and ESL are in big financial trouble and might have to sell, and then essentially the circuit shrinks, we're in big trouble. We're all in big trouble. It's another reason why I hate the orgs for being so short-sighted that they'd strung on PGL, right? I mean, there's also a world, by the way, where if ESL got broken apart, sold, and essentially were non-functional, there's also a part where, like Sylvia, because he's an OG super soldier, he might just be like, right, well, I've won the war. I'm going to sell my company now and go and do some cool shit with all my money. And then we wouldn't have ESL and we wouldn't have PGL. And then we'd have Blast, and Blast are on the fucking ropes. And by the way, Blast and PGL, their events are going to be overlapping in next year. It's only going to get worse. So I just wish Valve would just come back one more time, Daddy, and just fix these few little things. And then we're good.
Yeah, but that's the problem, Richard. We all know that actually the way Valve works is they're just in the other room and they've set you basic terms and they only come in when it's like, if I have to come in there, right, you fucking kids, and then they go mental, mate. They never just come in like, I'm checking in and you're all doing things. It's when it gets so bad it's out of control, then they come in with the slipper.
Yeah.
I'll mean it the slipper there to be kind to the Zoomer. Wasn't a fucking slipper back in the day.
Yeah, it definitely would.
And give you the old, verbal beat down, let's just say.
I'm just loving the idea that Richard thinks that Sylvia is just in it for the love of the game, just to take down ESL. And as soon as that's happened, he's just done.
Let me tell you.
I actually do think if the evil empire goes away, he is like a freedom fighter that has nothing to fight anymore, mate. And at that point, he just, he goes and gets a fucking vineyard or something, doesn't he? Exactly.
It's why I love Sylvia. One day, by the way, we'll have to just do an episode on explaining the history of that feud. We could probably even get Sylvia on it.
Especially because, by the way, at this point, he is the only soldier that was there the whole time, still fighting.
Exactly.
The rest of them, they all joined the fucking empire. That's the maddest part. But all the other ones,
it was why that after everything that happened in Stockholm, I was able to go back and me and him sat down and we had a long talk about it. And it was just like, look, the stakes have been. So it was sort of like. We were beefing. The supervillain was getting fucking turbocharged, and then you know what I mean. And then we were like, shit, man. It was Civil War. It was Captain America and Iron Man.
Basically, there's a cosmic level threat was just going to destroy the whole Earth. So now Superman and Lex Luthor had to work together.
Yes, there you go.
And then afterwards,
it's doomsday. It's the doomsday narrative, isn't it? So I mean, but basically, like I can also imagine as well, like Sylvia's a really accomplished, super intelligent guy with like loads of like other interests beyond esports. It's like esports is the habitual stuff, but his kids are all grown up now. They work at PGL. I got the pleasure of working with his family when we do these events. Having seen his kids grow up, having met them when they were fans of the game, and now they work in the company. And it's like, he's interested in so much other cool shit. Like, honestly, if ESL evaporated, he might just plant the flag and go, we won. And then that's it. There's no more need to fight anymore. We won, And this is what I mean. Like, it's all so precarious. All joking aside, I can't forgive the people like the Team Liquids and all the other motherfuckers that basically went to bat for ESL and strong arm Blast and strong arm PGL and basically say what ESL are doing, you're going to do it too. Because otherwise, we'll go to their events and we won't go to yours, no matter how good your events are. And by the way, you ask any players, which events do you like best? It's like PGL, ESL, and Blast, probably in that order. Maybe you can switch ESL and PGL. PGL don't put a lot of demands on the players for time. We do the content super quick. We've got a system. We put the player and the people making the content in the same hotel. So it's just rinse and rotate to get your media obligations out. We don't ask for as much as anybody else. We're doing all this stuff to try and be conducive to the ecosystem. And we know the players feel it. But it's like, unfortunately, there's other factors at play. And it makes it really hard to be like, a good, honest, like, we just want to put on a tournament. You come, you get the prize money. There's all this other politics, and it's bullshit. And it's a shame. And players are definitely suffering because of it, whether they know it or not. And particularly players, the pros down at the lower end of pro, getting towards semi-pro, than the ones at the top, who just get showered in riches. So I hope it all changes. I really do. And I hope VRS can be some sort of conduit for change. But I don't really know, unfortunately.
All right, Messioso, you have any last thoughts on the VRS system?
I get asked this a lot, and I think I've covered all my main points pretty well already today. I don't think there's too much more to add. I will once again implore Valve to just not be the absentee father and to try and be a little bit more involved. I just think even just like a minor bit of involvement, I mean, I say not Riot levels, but Riot do a good job at communicating future changes, communicating where what their roadmap is, even just a little bit of that, of just understanding where they want to see VRS in the end of 2026, how they see it developing into 2027, just understanding a little bit about where their thoughts are at would just be it might not even change anything, but it would just be nice to know that they're actively involved in in this, because right now we haven't seen or heard from them on these topics in 7 to 11 months.
Yeah,
and that's crazy. We are all just putting all our eggs into this big old basket of Counter-Strike and hoping that it all works, but there's no guarantee it will.
I think the fundamental issue here with Valve is that, there is no dedicated role. We've talked about that to deal with this, right? Because famously, Valve has very nebulous jobs. And so people kind of drift in and out, and it's whoever wants to be the stakeholder gets to be the stakeholder. But another issue with Valve is that they have been incredibly reluctant as a company to have any individuals be seen as representatives from a public perspective. So, for example, when in Dota, when they took Bruno internal and gave him a full-time job, he had to stop appearing on broadcasts, right? They really don't like to have people who are public representatives of the company. And the problem here is that how do you run a sport without a public commissioner? Right. Yeah. Somebody has to be out there delivering information. And I think that's the big issue here, is that there isn't a logical source of knowledge. Right. And it is all very ambiguous. And when Valve decides to come in, they may communicate it, like you were saying, the TO, but that doesn't mean the teams get the information directly. And it's well, I guess just trust the TO, like the story you were telling earlier.
But even different TOs get different information. They all have these different, it's all the communication is going on in parallel and none of it's the same. And it's just this, you can get drips and drabs and you can put together something, but there's just no uniform, centralized, there's the GitHub, and that hasn't been updated in nearly a year. So, yeah,
and
that's
look, Valve is full of, as Richard said, some of the most intelligent people, not only in gaming, but in the world. They are an enormously profitable company, and they are clearly super good at what they do. And I think one of the coolest things about Valve is they let very smart, very motivated people do whatever they want. Which is, if you're self-sufficient and you're very intelligent, is a capable way to run your company. But unfortunately, for sports leagues, it's very hard to do things that way. And this is where you have the issues, right? Yeah. Is that there isn't what you actually need in this particular situation.
For context, Monty, not that I'm a fan, but there's a big controversy in the WNBA right now because the commissioner of the WNBA had said she would go on to a Fox Sports, a very popular Fox Sports show and do an interview and make herself available to answer questions about the league and things that are going on with the direction it's going in. And then PR have pulled her and said, no, actually, we don't want you answering the difficult questions publicly. And everyone's going nuts about it. And it's think about it. I mean, I know Riot appointed a totally fucking fake commissioner, but a fake commissioner is arguably better than none at all. I mean,
agreed.
There is no point of contact for Valve. And that's crazy to me.
Well, it's not even for, the people who are running the tournaments. It's also just for the fans. Like,
yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird experience.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's very anachronistic. You think about like even Ubisoft have got shit like this now in Rainbow Six and stuff. It's like, Valve have really, like, just, you've got to look at a lot of the values that they hold up. And, it's like things like, hey, we don't talk about anti-cheat. Well, in the absence of it, by the way, everybody else, every other major games developer now of a competitive game, not only actively talk about anti-cheat, they fold it into their announcements. They have people, public-facing people that come out and talk about the areas they're improving it. Valve, we're just not going to...
Or who are on Twitter, like, giving information.
Like, Ubisoft at their big events for Rainbow Six, they have a guy sit in a chair and go, we banned like 300,000 cheaters this year. And now this is happening. Same with Call of Duty, and it's like, Valve just say nothing. And in the absence of information comes disinformation and pure ignorance. And, it's like, you don't have to talk about it all the time. You don't have to put it in patch notes. You don't have to give any proprietary information away that can help cheaters. But if you just had a guy who came out every 3 months and said, we've banned this amount of people and we've made all these improvements, it would shut like 40% of the fuckers up. But they're not even willing to do that. It's like, because, hey, we didn't do that back in 2001. Dude, it's 25 years later. Like, get with a fucking time. It's like, this is, but what's the incentive to change the way you operate when you've just pulled in $11.1 billion off Steam alone?
And you're like arguably, if not the most profitable private company in the world.
Capita. And by the way, like, again, just before we wrap up the episode, I actually looked at Gabe Newell's yacht. It's not a yacht. It is a mansion on water. It is fucking insane. It's got a research lab. It's got a hospital.
The cool thing about Gabe Newell is people are losing their minds about that yacht, but he's actually interested in oceanography, and so he lends it to like researchers when he's not using it, which is cool.
Yeah, but he just lives out at sea now, like some demented pirate. It's crazy. It's like but on these yachts and the size of like a mansion, it's wild. It's like, so we don't even need Gabe Newell. I just need someone. Just, you know what I mean? Just someone.
Not Gabe, but someone.
Yeah, not Gabe, but it could be Gabe.
I think the issue with Valve is that they hired developers.
Where's the yacht major? That's my question. Where's the yacht major?
We did it in Dota and it was a disaster, so we don't talk about that.
All right, guys. That'll do it for this episode of the Four Horsemen. Thank you to Messioso.
Always.
Maybe our number one most repeated guest on this show.
Yeah, I think this is 3 or 4 now. Yeah, it must be getting close.
Yeah, that's putting you on the Mount Rushmore of bald guests.
We need to get Tommy back, get Lopez back. I like his ones. He's great.
Yeah, that's right. We probably do that. In any case, guys, thank you very much for watching the show. And until next time, esports still end to ask.